Thanks for calling Skinny. It's Maggie. How can I help you?
How you doing?
Who is this?
How long you all stay open?
Oh, 24 hours.
Good. You all have them Frisco melts ball sandwich?
Frisco melt.
Yeah, Frisco melts. Anything with cheese on it?
Like a Philly cheesesteak or something?
Yeah, Philly cheesesteak of pew pears.
Yeah.
Can I talk to the person in charge there real quick?
All right. I want to talk to the person in charge.
Hello?
Yeah, I got a cousin, and he said that one of the workers there has been I'm a real Christian man, and I don't like hearing my relatives using that meth. I heard somebody working there been using meth a lot and pube hairs.
Excuse me now? You lost me here, sir.
Well, I heard that somebody there has been using meth, and I don't like my local community people working around this. I got little children go around there, and I don't like skinnies serving meth sandwiches.
Okay, well, I'm the assistant manager, and there hasn't been no type of meth sandwich, you said?
That's what I said.
Okay, well, sir, I really don't know of any of activity like that going on.
Well, I'll tell you what. If I hear any more of these meth sandwiches getting made, I heard that they're smoking the foilies back there when they're cooking the burgers, making them meth sandwiches.
Okay. That's news to me.
But you sound like a pretty good Christian man yourself, so I take your word for it.
Okay, well, usually we got a no-drug policy around here. I mean, any on the premises, I mean, they're usually fired on the spot, let alone the police are called. So, I mean, and there's usually a manager on both shifts, usually 9 times out of 10.
Well, I heard y'all got new management or something.
Yeah.
Well, yeah, I went there about 3 months ago when a lady looked like she'd been smoking the meth. She had about 2 teeth in her face, and, you know, well, God love her pube hair sandwich and all that.
Okay. Well, I don't have many teeth in my head, but it's not because of that. It was because of a car accident. But I guess, what we judging? You're a Christian, you say, but you're sitting there judging people because they don't have teeth in their head now?
Well, no, she didn't have teeth in her head, but you can tell she was taking the meth sandwiches.
Okay. Well, sir, like I said, I'll keep an eye on that and keep an ear open. I really appreciate your business and everything. I don't know, like I said, this is a new one on me. I'll be sure to tell the manager in the morning, too.
Well, I appreciate it.
Okay.
All right, good night, ball hairs.
Welcome back to the podcast, everybody.
Welcome back.
Thank you for tuning in. We just kind of want to open up things today a little bit more informally, talk about what's going on in the world at the moment.
I'm glad to be back.
Yeah, and we're happy to have Josh back for sure.
Heck yeah, man.
And
I've been missing it.
Just kind of want to give it a more personable open with Josh being back now and kind of reestablish ourselves here. How about them Blues?
I know. I had to wear my Blues hat tonight. Don't ever count them out, man.
Hell yeah.
I mean, that was unbelievable.
Yeah, like I was watching professional wrestling AEW, actually, and I was like, I was skipping over to the Blues game and knew that, you know, what the score was. And the last time I had checked, it was like 3-0.
Oh, I know.
And the Avs were up, and I was so pissed off. I was just like, you know, this is what I get for following them all.
You know, I was still mad because of the Kadri stuff, you know, Bennington being injured. And you know, I'm just still really salty about that. And then they were like, oh, fuck, man. Just kept pouring it on. And I was like, we tied it. Oh, they're up again. Oh, we tied it. And then, man, the overtime. That game stressed me out, dude.
Like how quickly they tied it and how quickly they scored in OT as well.
An empty netter.
Was just insane, man.
Yeah, I mean, the empty, they pulled the goalie. They had the empty net, and they had 6 on 5, dude, and somehow they pulled it off.
I know, it was incredible.
I mean, kudos to
we're
them
starting
boys.
to get that kind of magic rolling. Like, to me, that almost felt like, the Cardinals in 2011 in the World Series, So,
it's kind of magical for me, too, because, I lost my dad at the beginning of this month, and before my dad passed, that was something that me and him talked about a lot, was the Blues. And he's like, I don't know, man. He's like, this might be the year. And I'm like, I'm hoping so. So
big
now,
bonding.
Yeah. So now that Dad's gone, it'd be wild if somehow they pull it off and go all the way and
kind of like a miracle.
Bring it back. You know what I mean?
Miracle 22.
Bring it back to the city, baby.
Yeah, hell yeah,
do it
man.
for Dad. Yeah. Get him, Blues.
Yeah, hell yeah. The whole Bennington thing too, man. It's pissed me off so bad. Like, I think initially in the live feed it looked more malicious. Like a propel. But it was 2 players colliding.
Right.
And, you see that type of thing.
And then they went into Bennington, I know.
Yeah.
But
you see that happen with offensive linemen in the NFL all the time.
Let me say,
if
you watch every game, how many times did that happen before Bennington got hurt? I mean,
Fair
that
enough.
happened in every game.
Fair enough.
Until Bennington got hurt.
Fair
so
enough.
I don't know. I feel like there was some fuckery going on with that, but whatever.
Yeah.
So get well, Bennington.
Well, another thing that's been popping up since we've done this type of approach, if you will, is all these crazy abortion laws that are popping up in the country too.
Oh my God, dude. Just an attack on everybody's rights, man.
Yeah,
overall.
The leaked Supreme Court document as well.
I mean, suppressing women's rights, voter suppression. I mean, it's just been wild, dude. And then now we want to start talking about, what happened down in Texas, which is a horrific tragedy, man, that we could do something about, but we just fucking do nothing, you know what I mean? It's just terrible.
And I find it interesting that now the Republicans are wanting to have a conversation about mental illness for the longest time.
Right.
And this is the narrative now for them, that they have to ride the coattails of mental illness. Well, clearly anybody that thinks it's acceptable to do what took place there, take an AR-15 into a school and take people's innocent lives away from this world. They clearly have a mental illness. It doesn't take a fucking PhD to figure that out.
Yeah, I mean, a normal person doesn't have that drive.
Exactly. The fact that we're going to now recognize it as mental illness, quite frankly, they're doing anything to reposition the argument, because the threat of guns or the threat of taking away, like as if they have to take some sort of stance, because the NRA is so deep in their pockets. Right. Is the motivation.
Right. It's lobbyists. It's gun lobbyists that control our government, man. That's
Ted
how it
Cruz
works.
specifically, Texas.
Right.
Right. He got, I think, over $1 million or $2 million in campaign donations from the NRA.
Dude, but like what your wife shared, did you see the shit that motherfucker was saying? This happened because a back door was unlocked.
Right.
I'm like, what the fuck does that matter? What matters is it happened and these children were butchered, dude.
The thing that caught me and stuck with me was, we need to harden our schools. Motherfucker, they aren't penitentiaries,
Right.
He was talking about every single door needs to be locked except for one. Okay. Yeah, that doesn't, from the outside, that doesn't sound bad to me. And then he was like, so heavy on, well, then there needs to be lock guards out, and they need to keep all the classroom doors locked. So as he got into the specifics, the bullet points that he was trying to make when he was being questioned about this stuff, Ted Cruz that is again, he says we need to harden our schools as the punctuation,
Right.
And that's literally a prison. We just systematically explained a prison cell, or, a prison.
Right. I mean, it's just sad, that parents have to worry about sending their kids to public schools. You know what I mean? Like, me and my wife have honestly had discussions about, should we pull our kids out of schools? Our public schools, is it safe for our children to be in the public school, especially in the state that we live in? You know what I mean? And it's just like, it's sad that we're to that point when every modern nation in the world has done something about it besides us.
I can't remember the exact criteria as far as years, but I know it was like within just this year and no more than that. But how many gun-related violences that have taken place on a mass scale in the nation?
Something, right?
288 in the United States.
Dude. And
we do nothing since the beginning of the year.
And we do nothing.
You know who the second one on the list is and the number?
Let's hear it.
Mexico. So, geographically right next to us. 8
massive shooting events.
Yes, single digit.
And you're going to talk about the cartels and all that shit, and you're talking 8 to 280 something.
Right.
I mean, we have a problem. that we have
as
beyond
far
a problem.
at schools too. Yeah, so at school, let me put that qualifier in. I believe it's school mass shootings. That is. So, but yeah, this is just it's unacceptable.
Right.
You know?
And then the next day when they're a kid arrested with an AK-47 at a school in Texas in a different city.
I didn't hear about that.
Yeah, actually, I think that did happen. I mean, it's just,
inexcusable. Beto O'Rourke, he tried to approach Governor Abbott. They're getting ready to have the big NRA convention, and they're going to not allow firearms inside the NRA convention.
Right.
So here's
something
the
they
hypocrisy
promote
once again.
Right.
Governor Abbott himself will be speaking there. So you know what he just did last month or two? Cut like 20 million or something from mental health, or it might have been even 200 million from mental health programs for the state.
He's cutting anything that's a public program.
Yeah. Again, we're having a conversation about mental illness. We're blaming it on mental illness. We need to do something about mental illness while we cut the funding,
right, to take care of people.
Hundreds of millions of dollars.
So
what's the answer then?
Just like,
what are we doing
federally? Even though, like, we should, like, these laws that we need to pass that could help stop this stuff is like common sense stuff, dude.
Right?
Like, it's
For
like
sure.
no brainer stuff. You know what I mean? Like, every modern nation, like I said earlier, it's like no brainer. Like, these are common sense laws that every country should have, and it's just like we're more worried about where the money in the pocket comes from. You know what I mean? Our
government, we really need total reform.
Right. We do.
There's too many lobbyists in Washington. There needs to be term limits for every branch,
everybody,
including the Supreme Court. Like, this is just totally absurd. We shouldn't be allowed to gerrymander voting districts. That should be a total illegal act.
Right.
It's just, there's so many things that are to be done against the interest of the civilians in this country.
Right. Special
people don't even realize their representatives are making these decisions, and senators for them, and people literally don't know what's going on.
It's turning into an oligarchy is what it's turning into.
Well, one could argue it's always been
in
many respects as well. I mean, Clintons and
the
Bushes
and
the
big
Kennedys
and the Koch brothers and
right. So there's a lot of names that you could tie to politics, special interest groups, political parties. Excuse me. So there's a lot of things, machinations in the works that folks don't realize what's going on.
Right.
So we're also here today to talk to our acquaintance, Mr. Picou. Mr. Picou, Jared Picou, is well known by several folks in the community. Old Fredericktown boy. How I kind of got to know him and knew who he was, he ran with the Last Flight Home guys, which coincidentally just had Marcus on the episode last week. If you haven't checked it out, be sure to check it out. It's a long, interesting conversation with a lot of little nuggets here and there. Back to Picou. So Picou, always been a pretty funny guy, or at least, my group of friends, we always kind of looked up to that whole crew. And there was always things that we admired about them. So Picou was kind of a part of this joke band that they would do on the side for Last Flight Home called the Razzer.
It was so good.
And the Razzer, there was a Razzer bit on the last Flight Home EP as well.
Was that the meth sandwiches thing?
Yeah. So if you listen to us now, you already heard Skinnies and meth sandwiches bit. So hope you enjoyed that. But there's going to be like a lot of little fun nuggets, from that camp throughout the episode as well. We're going to do some Razzer stuff. Going to have a couple Razzer songs on as well. We will really get heavy into Picou with what he has going on today. I actually find him to be one of the more interesting social media follows, period, across all the people that I follow.
I was going to say his Instagram photo book is fantastic.
That's exactly it. Yeah, he's always going on some type of outdoor adventure, taking amazing pictures. I just kind of wanted to pick his brain about, some of his experiences, his recommendations, perhaps, if you are traveling. I know, a lot of our friends, especially young parents, like to, go somewhere like a destination in that regard, make memories with the kids, that sort of stuff.
Yeah,
so,
expose the kids. There's more to the world than Missouri.
Absolutely. What I mean? And going out to the West Coast is often a very popular vacation spot for folks, too. So, and I've always been fascinated with outdoor stuff myself. I was in the Boy Scouts and things like that in school, so always had an interest in hiking and outdoors and any hobby associated with that.
Absolutely. I used to fish and hunt when I was a kid, you know what I mean, stuff. So yeah, it's like that connection and getting back connected to nature.
Right. You know, it's just it's who we are. We rose from the ground.
We're primal.
Right. We are primal creatures. Absolutely. So it's just kind of like the beautiful harmony that you have in your existence, as brief as it is on the world.
Right.
So, but yeah, so we're going to get into the PQ, kind of get his perspective on why he enjoys doing it so much. I know he does a lot, you know, with his family as well, taking them on these adventures, and everybody's very active. So I'm sure that's kind of a part of inspiration in doing it, is creating that family time and that family fun. The only other thing we have to address before we get Mr. PQ in here is we will be debuting Little Cable Boy from our friends in Enemy Airship. This is dropping exclusively on Friday evening,
I'm so fucking
the
excited for
27th.
these
So
boys.
if you're hearing us now, that's probably already happened. And then they've also got a show out there this weekend. So unfortunately, we're not ahead of that show date, but hope you guys had a good show. I'm sure it was fantastic. And be sure to check out Enemy Airship on their Facebook page for their latest events. Stick around, guys. We got Mr. Jared PQ for you.
Oh no. Oh no. I ain't too choosy on my brewski. I ain't too choosy on my brewski. Got bad breath. I'll piss on you, then barf on you. Can't you hear? Can't you hear? I said now give me a beer. Alan Jackson, stop asking. Yes, she is my kin, and yes, I do sin. Ever been on a brewski binge? Ever been on a brewski binge? Oh, I hurt my knee, got stung by a bee. Let's count to 3. I need some rotten push, so let's bang. Oh wait, the phone just rang. Gotta go. Cold brew, calling my name. No shame in the bush. Bush beer that is. Time to whiz. Gotta go.
We wanted to bring you on the podcast, PQ, sir, because we fucking love the shit out of your social media.
Absolutely.
Your Instagram feed, the pictures that you put up.
Yeah.
Dude, I'm so jealous of those views that you get.
Cool, man. Enjoy your guys' stuff as well. I wish I could go to Cardinals games as often as you guys do.
Sure,
Right,
yeah.
Right.
You get to catch them out there, though, sometimes, right? You're close to San Francisco. Is that right?
Yeah, San Francisco is about 4 hours away.
Oh, damn, that's still a bit of a drive, then. Is it south of you?
Yeah, it's like southwest.
Okay.
I live like in the Sierras.
Oh,
okay.
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 That's really
Well,
pretty.
that makes a lot more sense than kind of the frequency of some of those views you get.
Yeah, like my nearest city actually is Reno, which is a hilarious city because all I know about Reno is Reno 911.
Right. Yeah. You ever see him running around?
Yeah, that's a fucking hilarious show. I gotta catch that, like the new thing they did about the QAnon thing.
Oh, yeah. I haven't seen since they've
that
come
yet.
back.
Yeah, I haven't either.
Yeah, I love living out here. I do miss Missouri quite a bit, actually. You know, it's hot as fuck in the summers, as you all know.
Sure, yeah.
Sticky. You constantly have red ass, but
Yeah.
I miss my Missouri friends and all the local shows and
For sure.
and baseball games, obviously.
Definitely. Yeah, I think
now that I'm sober, it's probably better that I don't live out there because it's just a drinking culture out there for sure.
right.
Absolutely.
Yeah, definitely.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's an easy trap to get into out here.
I think all of us can attest to that. We've been affected to that in some way.
Yeah.
From being around this area. You know what I
Yeah,
mean?
we definitely have. It's, you're kind of out here in the middle of nowhere and you look for things to do and you get together with your friends and you start drinking and
Right.
just kind of becomes years of that, and those years become a blur.
Right.
Sometimes I've laid off tremendously myself on account of it. Yeah, I used to drink a lot.
It's hard to explain to people out here, like, just how fucking wild, like, my group of friends and even my group of friends that I know, like Rusty and Ben and all the guys, like,
Right.
it just gets, we used to get so fucking wild, and it's so hard to explain to people, like, how acceptable it is just to walk around with a tall boy in your hand,
Right.
Right.
Exactly. Yeah. It's not frowned upon. We'll put it that way.
Right. Yeah.
No, not at all.
Especially in St. Louis, man. You go to a Cardinals game, like you can just straight up like walk with a 6-pack downtown and drink
The cops
your
are just
entire
like,
way.
whatever.
Yeah, the cops don't care.
I used to drive around all the time with like a tall boy, like in my truck, just drive around like it was nothing. I'm like, how the fuck did I only get 1 DWI?
Yeah, that's crazy, man.
Well, it's even like with medical marijuana now that's become a thing in Missouri. I think last time we were at the game, remember we walked around to the different gates and we're like, holy smokes, man.
Yeah.
Somebody is toking right here at the gate here at Busch Stadium,
Right.
man. It's wild, you know?
It's weird for sure because last time I passed through Farmington, I saw a dispensary. I'm like, whoa, this is crazy.
Yeah, the kid I graduated with opened the first one in Farmington. It's actually wild, dude.
That's awesome, man. You know what? Weed helped me quit drinking, and I dropped about 50 pounds in a matter of a month.
Wow, man, that's cool. It's cool it helped you.
Yeah, it did for sure.
I definitely noticed a difference like about 2015-ish. I started to scale it back. It wasn't as regular, but then it kind of got bingey. But yeah, I lost immediate ton amount of weight whenever I cut back. Like people don't realize those empty calories, the way they sit on you, like they just do not agree with you.
Right.
You know, biologically, you just blow up so easily.
Oh man, that Busch beer just hits so good though.
I know. Cole's Mountain Stream. Right?
Oh man, it's so fucking good. And I had a relapse with alcohol when COVID hit, and then we had like a 1,000,000-acre fire, no joke.
Right.
And
oh shit.
so I couldn't get outside and hike, and I was just stuck inside in my own head, and I started like drinking again, like being sneaky about it.
Right.
And my wife finally kind of caught me, you know, and she was cool about it. You know, she knows it's more of like a disease rather than, you know, she was upset, but she was more supportive than anything.
Yeah, it's good to have that support system.
For sure. Yeah, that's key to success with all that. There's no question.
Oh man, we would do some wild shit. Like I remember one time, me and Rusty, and it may have been Schulte or Nathan Thompson, and we were at a stoplight on Grand, and I was like blacked out drunk, and I hopped out of my car. We were at a red light, and I hopped out of the car. I think Rusty was driving, and they're probably like, "What the fuck is Picou gonna do?" And I hopped on the car that was parked right next to us, got up on their windshield, and just spread my ass cheeks in my salad and started rubbing my salad like all over their window.
Oh shit, man.
Oh, that's fantastic.
I hopped back in Rusty's car, and he's like super mad at me, like, "What the fuck, dude?" And it was this car full of like these thug dudes, and they were like, "We're gonna," you know, they're like pointing at us like they're gonna shoot us and stuff. So we had like this wild chase down the street, and eventually,
shit, dude.
Somehow we escaped. I don't know, but I kept laughing, and you know, but I'm alive, and I could tell about it.
Yeah, that's crazier than a lot of mine. But you know, we even do stupid shit like drive down the highway, driving 65 miles an hour around curves, shooting potato guns out of the car and shit. And I like a little ZX2 Escort, and it'd be rocking back and forth on the highway. You know, just stupid shit, man.
It's fun though. Especially looking back at stuff like that, like God, I can't believe we did all that stupid shit. But there's nothing to do. There's nothing to do growing up in the small towns that we all grew up in.
Right.
Yep.
Yeah, for sure.
Exactly. That's a big thing. Is you're just Midwestern bored kids. You know what I mean?
Yeah, and about the age that I got drinking age too, like a lot of the breweries and wineries in the area boomed, so then that just like became an excuse to drive on the back roads because all that's located kind of out in the boonies around here for what we already are the boonies, but you know.
Yeah, most definitely. Like, yeah, even my parents encouraged me to drink, and they know that I struggle with it. They're like, they're Catholic, you know, and they're just like, "Oh, why don't you have a beer with us?" I'm like, I can't. Like, I can't do it.
Right.
Like, I'll get wild. They don't understand.
Yeah, I mean, it's one of those things that has different effects on all people. Moderation, obviously, is key with anything. You know, I think that Marcus and I were even talking about this last week, you know, even with medical marijuana, like as long as people don't get stupid with it, you know, it really does have its medicinal benefits, and, you know, it's kind of a cure-all in many respects for many different things. So.
I've had to cut myself way back with it. Like I was getting to that point where it was getting ridiculous.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Like unaffordable.
Yeah, it can get
So-
expensive, and the strains are so powerful now too, and everybody's dabbing and shit, and
Right.
it can
Yeah.
send you into another world.
Absolutely. Been there.
Well, then also, obviously, it's one thing if you're, I don't know, like a single guy and you're gonna do some dabbing or whatever the case is, but you know, being a responsible parent, adult, you know, you have to be responsible with it too.
Yeah, most definitely. Like, I don't want to have that weed scene with my kids around, so
Right.
you have to keep it hidden and sort of wait till they go to bed, or
Right.
you know, sneak outside and take a bong rip or something.
Right.
Yeah, I was pretty vigilant about that. Like, I don't like intentionally do anything in front of them, you know, but they've caught me a few times, like outside, they saw a smoke cloud like pass by me, that sort of thing. Like, what are you doing outside, Dad? And that was always kind of weird. Yeah, I would assume at some point there's going to be a conversation there, but you know,
Right.
it's
I've had that
it's odd. I don't
conversation.
like want to encourage my kids to smoke or anything, but at the same time, like it really is medicinal for me. I have like crippling social anxiety at times, so
Yeah, I can definitely help with that, and it's hard to explain to kids like, yeah, hey, daddy is, you know, needs this, you know, but
right.
it's a weird thing, I guess, to explain to your kids.
I know that I have like some bugaboos about it, if you will, just because like I came from a home of addiction. Like my dad, unfortunately, he passed from an overdose. So, you know, like I'm always like constantly in fear that I'm going to be him, you know, that
Right.
sort of thing.
Yeah.
So that becomes quite difficult too. It's like and with the anxiety and things like that, I know I can be like overcritical of myself anyways. So like it's a complicated thing. I'm still trying to figure out how we're going to approach it. You know, my oldest daughter, she's 8. She's had some more questions than my son. My son he'll just ask and then he's on to the next thing. But my daughter's a little bit more introspective than that, and she's a pretty critical thinker already. And
It seems like you have really cool kids just from, you know, seeing them grow up on social media. It's crazy how time flies.
yeah, for sure. And I could say the same for yours as well. It's like it just seemed like yesterday you guys had the second one even, and I saw how big, you know, they were now. So it's wild.
Yeah, they're fortunate that they get to have me carry them up mountains, and then now Miles
Yeah.
climbs mountains.
Yeah,
That's
for
awesome.
sure. And that's another cool thing, you know, when you had your son named to Miles, you know, and all the hiking that you were doing at the time as well. I thought it was just a whole vibe you had going that was like mad respect for.
I appreciate it, man. It's you know, everybody is like, you got great pictures, and I'm like, it's easy to take good pictures out here because every angle is just amazing.
Right, photogenic, right?
Yeah,
Beautiful scenery.
good scenery.
Whenever you're living in Missouri, though, you hiked some, did you not? Because like I seem to remember seeing pictures on social media, like even back in the MySpace days. I think I was friends with you on there, and you did quite a bit of hiking at home still.
Yeah, I would go to the places like you all go to, you know,
Yeah.
Silver Mines, Hahn State
Pickle
Park,
Springs.
Tom's Sock Mountain, Pickle Springs, all those cool places. And it's sad. I think I saw somewhere that they're going to start doing some mining near Hahn State Park.
Yeah, so
Yeah.
about every 30 years, allegedly, kind of in that St. John area, meet St. Francis County, they have this whole, somebody gets dig rights for silver, what is it?
Is it cobalt?
No, it's not cobalt. Shoot, now I can't even remember
Is
what
it
it is. It's some like
silica?
obscure silica. That's exactly right. Yeah, it's silica. But I guess about every 30 years, the dig rights come up for it or something to that effect, and they go through this. I didn't realize it was a whole thing until now. My father-in-law was telling my wife about it. So, but there was like even down 32, there's like farmers getting creative, and they're putting their hay bales out and saying like, we don't want this mine, you know,
Right.
spray painting stuff on the side of hay bales as advertisements going down the road.
That's good, man. I mean, is it inevitable? Is it going to happen, or is there a vote, or what's going to happen?
I think it can be still stopped. Yeah, there's a
Surprised
proposition
the
that they
Department of
believe that they
Natural
have to pass.
Resources hasn't stepped in with that.
Well, again, it butts into, I think, literally that entire region. Like Pickle Springs goes into Hahn State Park, but it's like literally, I think it even ties into another natural area. I can't recall where, close by.
It seems like all the conservatives are like, you know, drill baby drill until it affects their water table, and then they're like, oh, this does
Absolutely. Unless it's now, I think there are sacrifices still there still yet. They will make those decisions if it's going to bring, the temporary jobs that they can banty about or,
Right.
Income into the state or whatever the case is. So everybody's got a price up in Washington. We actually dabbled on a little bit of that. We did an open before we had you on the show, and we try to do a little bit of a current events, and everything that's going on. Like
Right.
you mentioned, unfortunately, the recent school shooting as well, and we talked about some of those statistics too, like how much of that's going on and how unfortunately frequently it is. And like the next closest nation was Mexico, and they had like 250 less than us this year,
Something
which
crazy
is just
like
absurd.
Yeah,
Like they were in the single digits.
it's ridiculous, man. I mean, I have a couple guns myself, but like I forget that I even have them. They're like locked up, and then
Mine too.
and I keep my ammunition like in a bear box, like locked up in a separate room. So I haven't shot a gun in probably 5 years, but it's like, who needs an AR-15? And
Right.
yeah, we can take more. It's easier to get a gun than it is to vote in a lot of, it's ridiculous.
Yeah. Unfortunately, it's especially like with this kid, if there had been provisions such as, background screenings
Or
and checks.
waiting lists.
Yeah,
or
waiting list. There's just a lot of
anything.
things that could have obviously avoided this entire issue.
Yeah, most
Right.
definitely.
It blows
And
my
most
mind.
issues, honestly.
I mean, I just can't even fathom that an 18-year-old can accumulate 2 assault-style weapons and that amount of ammunition and not set off a red flag to anybody. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
I mean, it's Texas. It's like a birthright. You're 18.
I know,
and,
man. It just blows my mind.
that's what you get for your 18th birthday is an AR-15 and.
For sure. And what a lot of people don't realize is like the part of California I live in, like I'm about 2 counties south of Oregon and 1 county west of Nevada. So we're like in the middle of nowhere, and people everywhere fly the state of Jefferson flag. You can probably Google it. And basically the state of Jefferson, they want to secede from like the rest of California and be like this crazy conservative like state.
Right.
And it would.
So is that kind of similar to close to the region where like a lot of the Hells Angels people have settled into?
Yeah,
called?
There's a lot of Hells Angels, like
Yeah.
especially like in Nevada City, California, and Grass Valley, California.
Yeah.
Which is a really cool area. It's a melting pot of just conservatives, but you have a lot of like hippies too from that area.
Right. I was going to say there's kind of a weird undertow of hippies too, and it's all kind of generational as to everybody kind of fled out in California, specifically like in the 70s, and started growing weed and,
Emerald Triangle.
Right. And that's the region I was trying to remember the name of earlier.
Yeah,
Right.
I lived in the Emerald Triangle for a bit. I lived on the coast for a while, which is Mendocino County, and then you got Trinity County, and then Humboldt County. And I lived right on the coast of not Humboldt County, but Mendocino County for about a year and a half.
That's awesome, man.
Yeah.
Beautiful country out there.
I've recently watched that Sasquatch documentary.
That was wild.
Was pretty wild on Hulu.
Yeah, that wasn't very far.
Did you catch that?
I did watch that, and that wasn't far from where I lived. And it's crazy because you have all these like businesses, and that it's a front for like weed because there's no way like a sock store is just going to stay open. It's just like socks.
Right. Yeah. Right. Yeah, no doubt.
Yeah.
It was wild to kind of see the whole culture up there, even how it had changed to present day, because that journalist was going back and interviewing people decades later after he'd already been there. And in a lot of ways, it had a lot of similarities to this area. It seemed.
Oh, definitely.
Kind of methy, quite frankly.
Yeah.
There
was a lot of like libertarians, like kind of like stayed on my business kind of people.
I don't know if you find, outside of the hiking and the occasional people living out there, kind of how life's been similar for you. I know you've been, you and your wife have been together for a very long time, since like high school, right?
Yeah, we met in, she was in 8th grade and I was a freshman in high school. So we started dating around then, and then we got married her first year of college. So we're going to have our 15-year wedding anniversary like next month.
That's awesome, man. Congratulations.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah,
you got a few years on me in the marriage department, but definitely longer in the relationship too, man.
Yeah,
people don't do that.
She's a great person and very supportive, and just a cool gal.
She and the rest of the family often go on your hikes and stuff with you, and I believe she's a nurse, right?
My wife is she's a pharmacist here in the town of Quincy.
That's right.
Yeah, and she loves it,
awesome.
but it's also like a love-hate relationship for her with pharmacy, because you got big pharma pushing people to get as much narcotics as until they die, basically.
Right.
Yeah, you don't really even think about that. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Yeah, like I didn't even realize that was a whole. It's kind of funny whenever you realize in your life that sort of thing's going on. and then you can't not see it,
Right.
in some respects. But like, I remember the first time, like it's common around here in particular. You know, I was at a fucking concert up at Riverport. My dad took me, and there was people selling pills just like right next to us, right out in the open. You know, like narcotics, Lorcets and Vicodin and this and that. You know.
Oh yeah.
I was like, Dad, are we supposed to do something here? Like, you know, like I felt wrong for being around it, yeah, but I was like a teenager, you know.
Right.
Yeah, definitely. I remember being in high school and all the time, like even like the football players and everybody,
Oh yeah.
like everybody was trading like Percocets and all that shit.
Right. Yeah, for sure. Yeah, Soma kind of got big whenever I was in high school too. That was something that people would pass around.
Yeah.
Which it's not what it used to be, but it literally was derived from elephant tranquilizers. It's just like a very strong muscle relaxer that like will put a human being down. Like it will stop your heart.
Wow.
It's that you can overdose on it very easily.
Yeah, it's crazy. And now people are dying from like smoking fentanyl and stuff. I'm like,
right.
Is it really worth it? But
Right.
you just don't know.
Yeah.
That's a plague here right now.
Yeah, my dad kind of got on the front end of that down here, and that was one of his vices. And you know, and there's not any resources really in the area for folks. Like, you know, we took him to rehabilitation places and things like that, but like literally the closest one that was like inpatient was Cape, and that's, you know, hour and 30 minutes at least for us.
Yeah.
And you know, you take somebody down there and you drop them off.
Right.
You know, it's inpatient, it's voluntary.
Right.
They can check themselves out. They're walking on the streets in Cape, you know?
Yeah.
So, you know, it's difficult. There's not any resources really.
Yeah, for sure. And my dad, he was like when I was like a little tot, I guess he wasn't in my life at that point, but he's like confided in me that like he was on meth and all kinds of shit. And he's got the ability to quit things cold turkey, which I think I inherited, but it's amazing that he was like a meth head and then just quit cold turkey.
That is wild.
Yeah, that is crazy. I mean, we tried that with him in particular. I mean, you got to do stuff under the advisement of a doctor. Usually, you know, people aren't all engineered like that. Actually, most folks aren't, quite frankly. You know, especially if there's more than one vice going on there. But it's just a whole culture, especially here. You know, we for the while was recognized, at least in the conversation, for meth capital.
Yeah.
In particular.
And then it went to Jefferson County, I think. After it was St. Francis County, it switched to Jefferson County or something wild like that.
Well, I think the one that they actually identify as such now is like in Florida, like nationally.
Okay, so it's changed now. Yeah.
But yeah, I mean, it's still a problem in the area. But fentanyl, definitely, there's been a lot of overdoses. People think they're buying heroin too, because you know, fentanyl is being manufactured on the black market cheaper than even heroin is being produced.
Right.
And they're cutting it into heroin. People don't know it. And people, you know, heroin, they build up a tolerance to, just like any other opioid.
It takes more and more.
Yeah, so it takes more and more. So people are, you know, going to get their normal dosage of heroin, but it's cut with fentanyl, almost instant OD. You know, so that's a lot of what's going on with OD related deaths in this area in particular.
Damn, I hate to hear that. Like, it's so weird coming back because things look different, and then you see somebody you went to high school with, and you're like, fuck, they look like they're 50 years old now.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Pam and I were, my wife, we were looking at, you know, how old our parents were compared to how we were, or this or that. Like, and then strangely today, just doom scrolling on social media, I saw a picture of the people from Cheers, and like Ted Danson was like 35 on that show, and I'm getting ready to turn 35, and I was like, what in the fuck? Like, he looks way older than
he looks older than 35.
Yeah,
definitely.
Sure, yeah.
You know, because he's one of those guys that's kind of like aged very gracefully as well. So he doesn't seem as old as he is in some respects.
Yeah.
No, definitely. I love me some Ted Danson.
Yeah, I was really digging Bored to Death. I don't know if you caught that on HBO. Like,
yeah, Jason
13 years ago.
Jason Schwartzman and Ted Danson.
Yep.
Yeah.
And Zach Galifianakis.
Yeah, that was a good one.
Yeah, that was based. Jonathan Ames was the main character, but Jonathan Ames is like a real guy. He's an author. And actually, I don't know if you know this. He actually has a graphic novel called The Alcoholic, and it's about him being an alcoholic. And it is fucking good as shit.
Huh.
Like, I've got it. It's one of my favorite. I think it won a Newbery. It won a couple different awards. It may have won Newbery Comic of the Year and things like that. But it's excellent. It's one of the best graphic novels I've ever read.
Yeah, I'll check that out. I really like anything pertaining to comic books and stuff like that. It's just hard to get as much time for me to do that, to nerd out on that stuff like I used to.
Me too, man.
That life. I hear you, man.
Whenever my daughter was born, like up to the point that she was born, I was like avidly I had a subscription I was collecting per month, and then I would pick up trades here and there if I like something, like the actual, thick books, the graphic novels, and like that just had to come to a complete halt. So I've even got like boxes of stuff because like when I canceled my subscription, I still had like a couple months roll in. And like I have 2 boxes full of shit that I have not even touched still. Like the Sandman when it came back, Neil Gaiman. I got that on my subscription service, and I've got the whole series to read. And now, like, if you get those individual first pressing issues, they're like, and I even bought the variants because I was like, oh, this is gonna be big. And yeah, like they're going for hundreds of dollars if mint in condition.
Damn.
Yeah.
Better get them graded.
Hell yeah.
Yeah, that shit's really cool. I used to be like into X-Men and like all the cool comics when I was, like a little guy. And when you get older, now the only books I read is like children's books. Like people like, have you read this book or that book? I'm like, yeah, I know I read. Yeah. The last book I probably read was like Wheels on the Bus or some shit to my daughter last night.
Yeah. The Hungry Caterpillar.
1 fish, 2 fish.
Yeah.
Brown bear.
Yeah. So, not as much adult reading these days.
No, not at all for me either. Yeah. I've snuck in a graphic novel here and there, but it's like have to be before bed. And especially now we got the baby, there's a whole routine. It's like, got to have all the lights off. Can't have the phone light in her vicinity. Yeah. So there's no reading. Other than
I'm the lazy guy that just does the audibles. Like if I go for a long drive or something.
Hey, there's nothing wrong with that. There isn't.
That's about the only time I get literature anymore.
Yeah, audiobooks are awesome. My wife does them quite a bit, and I need to maybe do that.
It just really depends on the narrator for me. Some narrators really keep my attention grasped, you know what I mean? And some are just like, oh man, But there's some good ones out there.
She's doing McConaughey's new book, in which he reads it, which I bet's awesome.
Yeah, he was on Howard Stern, and I caught a piece of that, him talking about that. That's pretty wild. And it actually seemed kind of fascinating, but also oddly, he's like, does some like self-help stuff in it, so it kind of caught me off guard. Yeah. I mean, he's like a obviously positive, cool dude, but I was like, I don't know if I want to hear self-help thing from Matthew McConaughey. He's lived a pretty privileged life.
He's on another he's in another dimension or something.
For sure. Absolutely. Like he's the missing link to our next evolving as human beings.
That would be great. I tell my kids, because my son Miles is fascinated with aliens, and I'm like, well, if they are real, maybe they're here to save us because we're fucked.
Yeah. No, that'd be great. Like almost Interstellar-esque.
Exactly.
In some respects.
Dude,
back to McConaughey.
Yeah. Yeah. No doubt. I didn't even really do that intentionally. But yeah, for sure. Old Murph.
But I know you guys had some. I was looking at the notes that you sent me, and you guys were interested in like some Razzer back history.
Oh yeah, we're definitely going to be getting into some of that Razzer business. But I wanted to mention, I think the first time I met you, I don't know necessarily an official basis, but certainly would have been the Last Flight Home show, I'd say.
Oh yeah,
I'm sure all kind of frequents to those back in the day.
Yeah,
in the Farmington area. So
now that we're like older and we see each other on social media, I'm like, shit, I should have introduced myself to those guys more. And Last Flight Home shows were awesome, and Not Waving but Drowning shows were so cool. I think one of my more favorite shows ever was Cave In at the old Creepy Crawl. Mm-hmm. Me and Schulte and Rusty were going to go, and I think Marcus were going to go anyway. And I think Ben called me up that day and was like, they can't find an opener, so we're going to play. And I'm like, fuck, this is crazy. So that is probably one of my favorite shows of all time.
I didn't realize that's how they came to play in it.
That's wild.
I remember Marcus always talking about having played with them, but I didn't realize the story that went on.
Yeah, that was a really...
It's cool to hear some backstory.
That was a really fun show, and I've been fortunate enough to catch Old Man Gloom a few times out here and Cave In on their last West Coast tour.
Yeah, it sucks.
Stuff, right?
Yeah.
Yeah, just recently.
Yeah, you got that. You pre-ordered that record, didn't you? I thought.
It's really good.
Like all the fixins.
I think it's.
Yeah, Heavy Pendulum's fantastic.
Yeah, it's one of my favorites since maybe Jupiter. I don't know. I mean, a lot of people don't like Jupiter because it's not, a hardcore album.
I love it.
But I think Jupiter's great.
I mean, Antenna is not a hardcore album. Perfect Pitch Black, it's not, you know. So
yeah, they kind of get.
there's exceptions
They
to the
definitely sort of
catalog.
get kind of proggy, especially on Perfect Pitch Black and some of those records.
Yeah, they're at all, like, as far as current favorites that, you know, like Cave In and Converge are my two favorites. It's going to be hard to. There's plenty of other bands that I love. Don't get me wrong, and I love a lot of bands, but
they're at the
I would
top
have
tier.
to
yeah,
agree.
they bring the variety.
Both those bands to
They
me
bring the
just
variety.
keep doing it. And then what's funny is I have yet to listen to Blood Moon because I pre-ordered it, and I'm like, I'm just going to wait until I get the record. And all my friends are laughing at me like, you just got to listen to it on Spotify. I'm like, I'm going to wait till I get it in the mail.
You're like, nope.
It's not the same experience for sure.
Yeah.
I told myself I was going to listen to it one time, and then I was going to leave it and not come back to it until I got my vinyl. So I did listen to it one time all the way through start to finish. It's good, but I know I'm going to enjoy it way more on vinyl.
Right.
I know there's a lot of
yeah,
there's a lot of dynamic stuff that's going to just translate over that vinyl so much.
Yeah,
cooler.
it's something I'm looking forward to getting in the mail. There's so much vinyl back order right now, so I don't know when I'm going to get it.
Yes. I was talking to somebody that Zach Beery, who we had on the episode a couple episodes ago from Enemy Airship. He's about your guys' ages as well. I think he knew Rusty pretty well from going to college or something. He knew, I think, at Mac perhaps, but Zach knows Rusty pretty well. But anywho, he was on our show talking about, because they're doing a new album and wanting to produce it on vinyl, how horrific the back catalog is. Like if you even put in an order right now and you have to have everything ready, you know, media materials, all that stuff, you might get a late 2023 release. Might.
That's crazy, man.
So you're talking almost 18 months backed up.
You can blame Adele for that, I guess.
Yeah.
Yeah, no shit.
I think I read somewhere.
Yeah, well, that's what I thought was strange.
Yeah, I think I read somewhere that, you know, when her album just dropped, like the record sales went out the roof for her new record.
Yeah, she's, I think, the highest selling artist of this year and last already, or something wild. There's some weird stat with her. Well, that's not weird because she's ultra popular, but
I will say on local radio, like popular radio here, her songs were on constantly.
Yeah, I don't even know who listens to terrestrial radio anymore, honestly.
We only get one station out here, and it's like NPR, so that's the only thing we get. Yeah,
well,
that's not too bad.
Yeah.
Yeah, I'll tune into that stuff occasionally still, yeah. But even NPR's got their own podcast feed and stuff now. It's like
everything's digital. Right?
Yeah, and the quality, you know, it is what it is. It's just the way the world's turned.
Sure.
Back to, you know, us knowing you through the Last Flight Home guys, obviously. Marcus went to AV. That's how I knew a lot of people. Essentially was going to see his shows, and then I started playing, you know, music as well. The Last Flight Home guys are all fucking cool as shit. And you hooked up with them to do the Razzer stuff, right?
Yeah, that was sort of kind of an accident because it was MySpace days, and that was when Rusty and Ben were messing around with Pro Tools quite a bit, and they had me like lay down a track for maybe Gonna Get Cousin or something. And then the next day, I was on MySpace just doing the MySpace thing. And I'm like, what the fuck is this Razzer thing? And why is my picture on it? I thought I was getting trolled or something. And
you thought they were fucking with you.
I didn't know who was fucking with me. And I opened it up, and then there was that song. I was like, I had to call Rusty and like, what is it? What's going on? And it's like, you're in the Razzer now.
That's
and
fantastic.
For the longest time, you know, it was like Razzer was kind of supposed to be this like not really secret necessarily, but more like let people try to guess who it is, sort of.
Right. And I know, like, about that time when you guys put that stuff out, or close to it, I should say, I started hanging out with the Shrums a little bit more. I was like going to the Cato Shrum house in Park Hills, and they were also doing the Palm Tree Studios thing to like rival the Razzer, just like as a joke or whatever. But they like did a song about JB, like Jessica Barton back in the day. Like she was hanging out with everybody, and I guess she got some like creepy boyfriend letter from some guy or some admirer whenever she worked at 7-Eleven that was like stalking her, and like he left a note for her, and then like the Shrums got their hands on it, and they just like used lines from the letter for their song that they composed. And it was just like the actual stuck here waiting because I miss you, fuck you.
Oh my God, dude.
Like crazy stalker-ish shit.
I think Ben talked to me about this, but he never went into detail like about the songs and shit.
Those dudes are hilarious.
Yeah, like that. I felt like the Razzer stuff definitely inspired them doing that, but it was like a cool, fun, like, you know, St. Francis County rap wars type gimmick going on.
That's where we got the recording machine was from probably Matt. And I wish we could find the old tapes because the phone calls that they did are way better than any of the shit that we ever did. And it was just fucking hilarious.
I know. I remember Matt doing this phone call, which Matt, you wouldn't think to be the guy to do this.
You'd
like just meeting him
more so than Matt.
More so Ben. But
yeah,
Matt did this whole gimmick, and I think even some of the Last Flight Home guys did a similar type call. But the 9-piece tack set, like called in to like QVC channels, like, hey, I want to order the 9-piece tack set, and just like went around in circles with like the customer service reps that they'd get, and like ask them like what the knives would do and things. Like I think on one of the calls, somebody was like talking about like disemboweling people, and another one was like dismembering people. You know, just like asking the most inappropriate questions about knife use.
It's crazy how far you can get people to go. I remember one time we called this hotel, and I told them I was a gymnastics coach, and we called a hotel out of St. Louis. And I said, like, hey, we're in town from, I don't know, from like Florida or something. And I need one room. And it's just me and like 10 teenage girls. And I'm like, we're going to, and I got like really inappropriate with it, like about, and the guy was like, yeah, that's fine. You can do that if you want. I'm like, just saying like the most inappropriate stuff, like what I'm going to do with these teenage girls. He was like, yeah, that's fine as long as you don't break nothing, you know.
Oh my God.
He just kept going and going. I think finally he caught on and hung up, but that was a good one.
He's like, no problem, man. We'll facilitate whatever you gotta do.
Yeah. I know if somebody got like a good idea, somebody else would always like try and run with it too, you know. So like somebody would try to build on it, especially at the Cato Shrum house. Like they would just, you know, somebody would do a bit and then somebody would escalate it to the next level.
Yeah,
you know, on those calls.
Puckery.
Yeah, I always thought Ben's phone calls were better than what I did, and he was kind of always sort of embarrassed, as was I. But looking back at it, it's still pretty funny shit.
Yeah, he was an incredibly funny guy too, man. I kind of lost touch with him over the years. Last time I had tabs on him, he was working at the barge, but there was a lot of funny times with him in particular.
He got married and had a kid.
I believe so.
So good for Ben.
Ben Schulte got married?
Oh, I'm sorry. We were talking about Ben Shrum.
Yeah.
Oh,
yeah. Because we were kind of stuck on the Shrum talk.
Yeah. I haven't seen Ben Shrum in a long time. You know, we were both working on riverboats at the same time, like in St. Louis.
Yeah.
Different companies. And we were riverboat boys.
Yeah, I knew, like,
That's
I remember
job.
Rusty going to do that, and that was kind of a whole thing, like, it like affected Last Flight Home's ability to play shows or something to that ilk. Like, that's how I didn't even like realize that was a profession until that point. I'm like, oh yeah, it makes sense. And then it seemed like a whole flurry of people started, you know, doing that work from this area.
Yeah, my stepfather is like still working on the river. He's like a riverboat captain, and basically he goes from St. Genevieve to New Orleans and back. That's like his run.
Oh, wow.
I think he works for like 28 days straight and then 14 days off,
Jeez.
28 on, 14 off, you know.
That's a hard run, man, especially as you get in your later years.
Right, yeah, the older you get, I couldn't imagine how hard that gets on you.
I did 1 month of that, and then I had my 14 days off, and the day I was supposed to go back, my wife just like cried, and I was like, fuck this shit.
Right.
Yeah.
And then I ended up working in the St. Louis harbor where you were home every night, which was even harder work and shittier work.
What did you do there exactly?
Basically, you have a tugboat that's like your tugboat, your crew, and the lowest man on the totem pole is like a deckhand. I was a deckhand. And then you have your mate, and then you have like your captain. And basically what you're doing is stringing together barges all day. Damn. And you just use like real heavy duty wire and ratchets to like string together barges. And then a bigger tugboat will come along, like the ones that leave for like 28 days at a time. And they'll take like, depending on how high the river level is, you can push 30 barges at a time, like southbound.
Yeah, that's crazy.
And that's like what my stepfather does, yeah.
Well, that's another thing you don't consider is how much the river can actually take on it at any given point, depending on the actual level of it.
Yeah, if the river's up, especially in the springtime, you can get from like St. Genevieve to New Orleans in like I think like 7-8 days.
That's pretty wild.
Yeah, that's
You don't
not
really
bad
think
at
about
all.
that.
So that whole 28-day run that you're on, you're literally working every day? Like you're gone for that period of time?
Yeah, and then while you're on the boat, you work 6 hours, and then you go knock on your relief, the other deckhand. You knock on the door like, "Hey, get up! You got to go to work. My turn to sleep." And 6 on, 6 off, 6 on, 6 off.
That's crazy.
Oh my God, dude. That's horrific.
Relentless, dude. I couldn't do it. I'll be honest with you. I could not do that work.
I did it for a month, and I was like, "Fuck this!" And it was good money and good good insurance too. But
I mean, it'd have to be because it's such a crazy schedule.
yeah,
Money, that is.
yeah, and it paid good. It would be a great single man job, like because those 14 days I would just travel. But most of the guys just come home and get drunk and blow their money on whatever, beer and cigs.
Right.
Beer cigs.
Pack of Reds and a case of Bush beer, baby.
Hell yeah.
Some chaw.
Oh,
Yeah, this boy's chawing right next to us right now.
Old
Old
Adams.
Grizzly Adams over here.
Yeah, I do a little bit of snuff from time to time where it's like the old school kind that you have to like, snort. And I always get funny looks when I do that snuff.
Yeah, folks think you're hitting some cocaine or some shit.
Yeah, for sure.
Don't worry, it's black, lady.
Yeah. Yeah.
So I didn't even realize that the Razzer did as much stuff as it did.
I didn't either. Like, I didn't realize how much content there really was.
Because I had to hit you up. I did have a bunch of songs on my old iPod, but when I hit you up, I was like, hey, man, you got some Razzer tracks that we can use? And then you sent me that Bandcamp page, so I've been pumping that link for people to check it out.
Yeah.
And then there's still some timeless stuff there.
Rusty's he just took down all the raw phone calls and he wants to like fuck with them.
Mm-hmm.
And so I'm excited to see what that turns out to be.
Oh, hell yeah.
Almost kind of like was that Longmont Potion Castle? Is that how you say it?
Yeah.
You ever listen to that?
Yeah.
Yeah, I think he kind of wants to go that direction with it, sort of, and
cool.
really manipulate it.
That's cool.
I know Ain't Too Choosy was a hit amongst a lot of people.
Yeah, Ain't Too Choosy was definitely of my favorite. I mean, we would literally sing it at our band practices, even back in the day. Josh and I were briefly in a band together. Like, we just constantly, we take breaks and we go listen to Razzer. That's exactly what we were doing back in the day.
The goal was to just suck as bad as we could, and we achieved that, and a few fans along the way. So I'm amazed that I personally like the phone calls the best, but the songs are pretty sweet. And mainly Rusty is the
engineer
one that
behind
fucks
it.
with all that. Yeah. And I just come up with the skankiest lyrics I can think of. And,
right.
The most obscene shit.
When you live in Southeast Missouri, you have all the inspiration you need.
Absolutely.
Yeah, for sure.
So that's, a very good reason why, it struck a chord with me immediately because, lyrics like, I'm going to go get cousin. Like, how many times have I heard that, in a rat kid fight? A bunch of bum kids at school. It's like, I'm going to go get cousin, man. He going to show you how it is, man. Things of that ilk. Yeah, so it spoke to me.
Yeah, most definitely. That's exactly how that came about. Like, I'm going to get my cousin. He's going to whoop your ass.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Definitely. So that was pretty famous with my crowd of friends. Of course, you had the phone calls you alluded to earlier, which one of those snuck and made its way on the Last Flight Home album.
Fantastic work.
The meth sandwiches one, which is just iconic.
Yeah, rest in peace, Skinny's Diner in Perryville.
Right.
Yeah, right.
Absolutely. Yeah, there was one in Jackson-ish too. That was the last one.
And it's gone?
Yeah, and it's closed now.
Wow.
But
oh man,
I ate at it right before it closed too. But
damn.
I told my wife all about the whole Skinny's meth sandwiches thing. She didn't know anything about it, and I was like, "Oh, you gotta hear this." So she's heard it a million times over the years too.
I actually purchased that Last Flight Home album, and so I have the whole album on my phone. So sometimes when I shuffle, that comes on, dude. It's always a real treat. So.
Yeah, except on the Last Flight Home one, it's edited to shit.
Yeah.
they didn't expect that, and then when they got it, it was like, oh man, they beeped everything. So it kind of leaves you wondering what I'm saying unless you've heard the actual version,
I had actually heard the real version, so whenever I heard that on the record, that was even funnier to me for some reason.
Right.
For a while, Like, I was like, oh, they just totally, because when I first heard it, I didn't know the story behind it. And so I was like, oh, they're just like beeping this because A, they don't want to get in trouble, but also if you've heard it before, you know what he's saying, but also you're leaving people to infer what he might be saying, which is also another level of comedy.
Right.
Yeah, that's kind of what I got too from talking to people, is like, I was kind of sad that it was edited. And then a lot of people were like, oh, we love it because of all these different reasons, you know?
Right.
So yeah, it's kind of cool that I got to be on that album. I guess it's a really solid EP.
Oh yeah,
Sure,
absolutely. I still jam it.
Yeah, we were even talking before you got on the call about how much we loved Marcus's bass lines in particular.
Dude, I had a real fanboy thing for Last Flight Home. I don't know if it was just because like the scene at that time was such a popular thing, and they were like probably the best thing in the scene. You know what I mean? But yeah, I had a real fanboy like type thing with all them boys for a while. As creepy as that sounds.
No, I mean, they're some of my best friends, and I was totally obsessed with like that EP and so excited for it to come out.
Right.
And I remember riding around with Ben Schulte in Fredericktown, and I think he was on a SIG run, and he was like, hey, here's like, we're going to listen to it before, you know, it actually comes out. And I'm like, this is so good. And Ben being Ben, he was pretty critical of it, but I think it's fucking great.
Yeah, I think it's phenomenal.
Yeah,
work.
it's fantastic. I mean, like he said, we still listen to it today.
Yeah,
obviously we use it in our promotional materials for the show. You know, and I was telling Marcus this last week too, but Last Flight Home is a huge bonding thing for he and I specifically.
Right.
So it's just like it needs to be bred into our show, because that was our prime first bonding moments was like going to Last Flight Home shows together. You know, the Last Flight Home CD release show, we worked with the people at Nature's Cup at that time. You know, we're involved with like asking some of the bands to come down and play that as well.
Which they were always down. They were always down.
I remember seeing all you guys at those shows, and I think they probably would have lasted longer if they, you know, Calvin was getting older and he did his thing with Not Waving, and I think they just couldn't really find a drummer that just was as good as Calvin. Like, how do you find a drummer as good as Calvin?
Right.
I don't know if that's the case, but I wish they would have made a full length after the EP, but it is what it is.
Right.
I know Fredericktown boy Randy Busky toured with them.
I was going to say,
like they're on that
Randy
on
came
that
in.
album. Yeah.
Roast beef.
Yep.
Yeah.
The roast beef.
The roast beef. Yep.
Yeah, he's a good dude.
I ran into him
Randy.
at a Dinosaur Jr. show. This is like right before the pandemic. Yeah. There's a new venue on Delmar Loop, Delmar Hall, which is pretty dope. And I ran into him there. Cloud Nothing's open.
Do you remember?
Oh man.
Do you remember the house my mom owned out on H Highway in Farmington?
Yeah.
It was like kind of like a giant. We practiced in. It was more like a giant building, but it had a house inside the building. Well, she had rented that. Well, Randy came out on that last night. We partied out there. My mom had moved out and had all of her stuff out, and we had a party out there. And me and him got drunk and burnt the doghouse that the guy owned out there on the brush pile. So that was a pretty cool memory with Randy.
That sounds like roast beef. I love that dude.
This is Barrett from the ATI podcast. Each week, Josh and I discuss current events, pop culture, music, TV, movies, politics, sports. Nothing is out of bounds. You can also tune in to learn about rising artists, small businesses. Whether it's music, graphic design, filmmaking, or even a brick and mortar mom and pop shop, we will be spotlighting folks and their endeavors. Listen to us on Spotify, Apple Podcasts, Google Podcasts, Amazon Music, Anchor, or anywhere you enjoy your podcasts. Just search ATI Podcast. We would like to thank you for your continued support, and as always, please stay safe out there.
I don't think it likes you.
Boy,
I think it's all that Pornhub is fucking with me.
I know.
But yeah, back to the Razzer, and yeah, sorry about the delay.
It's all good.
I know you guys are both dads, and it's pretty late there in Missouri. So once again,
it's all good,
this
man.
Is our night, man. Thursday nights.
Yeah, Thursday nights we get our dad pass. So
nice.
This is what we spend it on.
Nice. I'm gonna watch the Warriors game later, but I got that recording. So
yeah.
Oh, my boy's obsessed.
Yeah, I love Steph Curry. He's one of my faves.
Ian is obsessed.
And their coach. How can you not be a fan of Steve Kerr?
Right.
Yeah, I was a Kerr fan, when he would play for the Bulls.
Bulls.
And
Hell yeah. Spurs.
Spurs, yeah. People forget that he played for the Spurs.
Yeah, had good years with the Spurs as well. Well, we're just kind of wrapping up kind of the fact that you guys were on the Last Flight Home EP and just kind of what people's thoughts were at the time, like why the bleeps in there, the editing and that sort of stuff. But did you guys continue to do stuff after that? Because I just kind of fell off of my awareness, I think.
Kind of hard for me to remember too, honestly, because it was like such a joke and we wanted it to suck so bad. I think
but people loved it too much.
Yeah. I think the last proper song we put out, now I mean Rusty did 2 songs with Grandpa Smoke, which is a friend of ours, Taylor Fall, and those were like 2015 or 16.
Okay.
So yeah, that's the last songs we put out. We wanted to do more phone calls, and I actually wrote a song like probably 15 years ago, and it was called Truck Stop Fuck Shop. And I just can't
wonder what that's about.
I can't really get past the chorus, which is like, I'm at the truck stop fuck shop getting a toy for my little bitty itty bitty baby boy. and that's all I really got. So if you all can help me with that, I would be grateful.
Oh, you're coming to the right department, especially at this hour usually of night.
So yeah, it's Truck Stop Fuck Shop would be our next song if we ever do one. A live show would be hilarious. We always talked about.
Yeah, I was gonna say that'd be great. Hey, I know you know better drummers than me, but I'll volunteer to play.
You would need a drummer. If you need one. Could you go by the Alias Cousin?
Absolutely. Yeah. And that funny story about the Alias Cousin further. So Marcus and I used to go to First Walk all the time together in Ridge, and we all had long hair at the same time, all had our shitty beards and so on and so forth, all wearing black band t-shirts and torn up jeans. So Jeff from First Walk would always recognize us all as cousin.
What's up, cousin?
That we were all cousins with
What's
each
up,
other,
cousin?
According to him. But like we all looked the same to him, you know? So it was kind of ironic in that regard.
Right.
You know?
Everybody looked like a stereotypical white kid.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
So I loved it. I mean, it was like, yeah, hell yeah, that's hilarious, you know? So we would like recognize each other as cousin occasionally.
Marcus is a good dude. I ran into him last summer at a Cardinals game just randomly. So we sat next to each other and hung out
nice.
and talked about music and stuff. I love Marcus. A funny story I got to tell you is the Last Flight Home invited me to a show in Indiana one time, and they were big in a lot of these small towns in Indiana. And they played like at a VFW hall or some shit. And I didn't know anybody, but like Rusty and Calvin obviously knew like all these people. I think Calico System played. And so we get there like really early, like it's 12 o'clock, but we're already drinking Busch beer. And Calvin, he might not drink. I don't know if he does drink, but at the time Calvin didn't drink, Ben didn't drink. And they were kind of like they're kind of getting a little rowdy, you know. You could tell that they were sort of kind of not digging how much we were drinking. And anyways, we go into this VFW hall and all these bands are mingling and it's kind of a scene, obviously. And I didn't know anybody. So I like sit down on this like table that has a telephone on it and a big telephone book. And I'm just like sitting there just kind of staring at the ground like I didn't know anybody. So I'm just like kind of minding my own business. And this dude from this other band, like, obviously had a big ego or something. Like, he, like, walks up to me, like, looks me dead in the eye and grabs the phone book and just, like, starts ripping out pages. Like, some kind of, like, male dominance move or some bullshit.
Oh, my God.
I didn't do anything about it. Like, I was like, well, I don't know what's this guy smoking. And as the night progressed, I had kept drinking and, like, thinking about it and getting madder about it.
Yeah, boiling.
I think I may have told Rusty. I've probably told Rusty, like, at some point, like, I'm gonna whip that motherfucker's ass. And I'm not a fighter. Like, I just I love UFC. I think wrestling's cool as shit. But like when it comes down to it, like, I'd probably get my ass kicked by anybody. But I was still mad nonetheless. And so I think Calico System was wrapping up and putting their shit away, but like at that point it had turned into like a full-blown party, you know, like all these teenagers are like drinking and partying, and this kid's just like strutting around, and I walk up to him and I think I said, like, I heard you called me dirt, and he like looked at me and kept laughing. And I just headbutted him like right kind of in the note, like in the bridge of his nose.
Oh my God.
He just starts like bleeding profusely. And
shit.
I'm just like laughing really fucking hard. And I make my way outside and I'm just like laughing and I crack a bush beer open and I'm sort of celebrating, I guess. And this kid and all his like Indiana posses run out and they're like it's on, motherfucker. And you know, Rusty's like a big dude.
Right.
And Calvin is such a gentle dude, like just a good dude. I love Calvin. And he just wants to keep the peace, you know? So I think at some point, my memory's blurry, but he was like, no, guys, like, we don't want this. And Rusty was drunk too, or at least getting there. And he gets in front of me. He's like, no, you got to go through me first. And then our other friend, Daniel Beatty, which is even bigger than Rusty. Daniel Beatty's a big boy, if you know Daniel.
Oh, yeah. Yep. Old Beatty.
Yeah, he steps in front of Rusty and grabs that kid by the fucking throat and like puts him up against either somebody's tour van or against like this VFW hall wall and is like choking him, you know. And I'm still just like laughing, kind of like I was laughing when I put my salad up on that person's windshield. And so somebody starts saying like cops are coming, blah blah blah, you know. And all I can remember is like kind of hopping in the van and heading over to this guy that's acquaintance with Rusty and Nathan. I'm sure you've seen him at shows. Cade
Holt? Yep.
Good dude. And so we just kind of, I think we probably hit up a Denny's first.
Yeah, sure.
Then we went to Cade's house and we still like to laugh about that. That was fucking hilarious. And I still don't know why that guy just decided to, you know, rip that phone book right.
Take exception with you.
Yeah.
What a wild move. I can't say I've heard of some power moves, but the whole phone book and the ripping in the face
just why
thing.
though, you know?
Inspirational Christian message at a gymnasium in my high school. Yeah, sure. I could see it, you know, tearing some phone books.
He definitely had the hair straightener look going on, like over like emo thing. And
the Sunny Moore.
At that point, at that point I was already balding, so I couldn't do that anyway. I would probably go to straighten my hair and rip out half of it and look like Bill Murray. Kingpin.
Yeah.
So I never really rocked the emo cut. I just didn't have the hair for it. But this dude had like the total like Hot Topic look.
Yeah.
That's probably the only time I've like got the best of somebody was headbutting him right in the nose, you know.
Yeah.
And I think it kind of upset Calvin because he is, like I said, I'm sure as you guys know, he's just like a really good dude and wants no confrontation.
Oh, absolutely.
Right.
Yeah.
And I think Marcus is kind of like, you know, Marcus is a really good dude too, and I don't really think he's much of a fighter either. And he was like, and the Calico dudes, they were kind of like, I think, sort of cheering us on.
Yeah.
But that was a pretty, that was a pretty memorable night. It's weird how, you know, the Farmington kids and the AV kids and Park Hill kids liked Last Flight Home more than like the Fredericktown kids.
Yeah.
I guess I didn't really realize that.
Yeah, like we had, I don't know, you guys remember Shiver?
Yes. And then there was also like a Christian band with like...
I think so. Yeah, they were definitely like new metal. So there was like the rivalry between like Shiver and Last Flight Home. I don't think it was like an official rivalry, but sort of unofficial, like new metal versus like, you know, an emo band, I guess. And so everybody in Fredericktown was behind the times and still was like into Jinkos and like new metal when the big city kids from Farmington were like into emo before everybody else.
Right.
Well, there's a lot of formative bands that were on the rise that even came through this area.
Oh, yeah.
Oh, man, like Open Hand, like fucking Shun.
Yep.
I remember seeing Shun, and I was just like, this is the coolest shit I've ever seen. Like, I didn't even know this kind of music existed.
Yeah.
And then I went down the rabbit hole of like Dredge and all that cool shit.
Right.
Yeah, Dredge.
I think a guy from Shun was in that Pilot's Wish band. I could be wrong. Or one
I think you're right.
Yeah, and we played with them a few times, but they were really cool people. Like it was like a husband and wife, and then like a brothers sisters thing. It was like one of the chicks was married to the guy in the band, and then the rest of them were siblings. Matter of fact, I've got their poster sitting up in.
Yeah. Where was Shun from?
I want to say Philadelphia-ish area, but I know somewhere close to the East Coast. I want to say Tennessee, maybe.
That band was so cool. A lot of cool bands came through Farmington, like the VFW Hall and the Nature's Cup.
Felix Culpa played Nature's Cup.
There was several bands, Barbarinos too, that were kind of blew up too.
Yeah. Well, didn't like bands like My Chemical Romance or some
Fall Out Boy, I think, played Bob's.
Yeah.
I think Silverstein.
I think that was Joey
Bob's.
O'Farrell type shows that he threw down here, but
Joey was good at that shit. He's good at booking.
he's doing great now. He's doing independent wrestling at the pageant. He's got his own little promotion going.
That's awesome, man. I'm glad to see that like wrestling is blowing up again, and it's like something cool. It's something good to do that's not like meth related, you know. And I think that's why ultimately we did the Razzer, is because we all had a disdain for like seeing all these people and friends that we knew and loved like
Absolutely
get into the meth scene, and that's probably why everybody still like new metal too. It's so methy,
right?
For sure.
I think it was an outlet for us to like say like fuck you meth people or something like that.
Right.
Sure, absolutely. That was how we took it too as fans of the Razzer, you know, and us having to deal with it a lot ourselves down in AV too. You know, we tried to find the humor in it because I mean you got to, otherwise, you know, you can be a complete negative person or let it bear down on you. Yeah, to find the lighthearted moments in it.
Yeah, most
so
definitely.
Your characterizations of some of those folks was definitely comedic gold for us.
I need to get into more. I guess I got to go to the band camp of like your band, and like Dire Babe is so fucking good, and Rusty's always like on my ass about like, oh, you got to listen to more your friend Zach's band.
Oh yeah, it's
Enemy
fantastic.
Airship.
You won't be disappointed.
Yeah, those guys have gotten to be. I mean, they always were good musicians, but they've just. Zach's really obsessed with kind of the engineering piece too, and he's a multi-instrumental artist. Like he can play everything, and he actually recorded the Meyer Giants albums. We were the very first band he recorded, our first EP, and then he did our second, and that was exponentially better because he got more equipment and learned from what he did previously. And we did have another catalog of songs. We had like 9 songs that we could have went and recorded or so. And we always kind of wanted to redo a couple older ones too, to put a fresher spin on them. But Zach was like an honorary 4th member of Meyer Giants. So he's a brother to us. We love him.
That shit's really good. I listened to, I think it was your second EP quite a bit. And yeah, I got to download the whole catalog because I like everything that is a Jake. Does. Yeah. He seems like a good dude. And I think I ran into Zach and you maybe 2 or 3 years ago at an Appleseed Cast show where, damn it, what's Calvin? What was the little Calvin's like offshoot Not Waiting band?
Time and Time.
No.
It wasn't Time and Time. It was
it's with
basically everybody from Not Waiting
except for Todd. Yeah. God, I cannot remember the name of it. Flow Clinic.
That's right. Yeah, Flow Clinic's awesome. And then now Justin's doing his ambient shit, which is really good.
Yeah, I saw he's getting a lot of plays on Spotify and stuff. Like he posted his year-end stats last year. I feel like he was in the hundreds of thousands of streams.
Oh, that's awesome, dude.
Yeah.
At least.
So many good musicians from the Farmington area, Fredericktown area, Arcadia Valley, Central. And it's a shame that, like, looking back on it, we all didn't like mingle more, you know?
Right.
Yeah.
I'm younger than Rusty and those guys, and I'm fortunate that they kind of took me under their wing. I don't know what they saw in me.
Yeah.
They just took me under their wing and was like, hang out with us. And, so I always did. Yeah. And they always bought me beer.
Right.
Yeah. Kato was that way for us in many ways.
That's kind of how it was for Last Flight Home with me, too. I was coming into the music scene, and they were kind of more established, and I kind of looked up to them, you know what I mean? Like what they were doing and stuff. So those guys were older than me, so it was cool to have that during that time, you know what I mean?
Yeah, Rusty's so cool, and we still say, like, pretty close. And he's so humble, like, he doesn't realize, like, how good his shit is. Like, you talk to him about it, and he doesn't want to talk about it.
Yeah.
Yeah.
His vocal work is fantastic.
I've always loved everything that he's ever done, and I know for a while he was still yet recording music and posting it up, and I feel like he and I were even talking about...
Was it like Acoustic Works? Some of it was?
Yeah, I mean, it was him doing all the music.
Yeah, it was great.
But yeah, it was
I
really
remember
good.
that, yeah.
And
I think his brother
we were
too.
even, and his brother, and we were like trying to, I think it was like right at the end of Meyer Giants doing stuff, or like Meyer Giants never broke up, but like on indefinite hiatus, I guess. Like Ridge and I had been talking about maybe doing something again, but Jake's Dire Babe stuff, I mean, he just kind of went in a different direction, and it's excellent. I'm a fan of it. Like I listened to especially the last album that he did. I just am obsessed with it. It's some of the best stuff I've always been a fan of him. That's how I ended up his music. So that's how I ended up playing with him. Like I weaseled my way into playing. I guess technically what started as like John Henry, but ended up being Lay of the Land, and then that just kind of just morphed over the years. But I weaseled my way into playing with him because I was just like such a fan of of everything that he did.
Yeah, I know Rusty is always telling me to listen to his stuff, and I finally got the time to do it, and I was like, fuck, this shit's good. And I think he was the one that ultimately was like, got to listen to like your band and so many good bands that I got into.
It'd be so cool. I know it's like everybody's off, especially all over the United States, but it'd just be so cool if there was some way to throw an old style, Farmington show at least one more time.
Or something, right?
Yeah.
Maybe like we could have the first Razzer show ever, and then
that'd be the catalyst for it. Yeah, that'd be fantastic.
And obviously, we would try to suck as bad as we could. With cancel culture, me and Rusty were talking like that would be Razzer's goal now is to get canceled. It wouldn't take long at all.
Right.
Oh,
yeah,
absolutely.
You'd be popping up in the river.
I don't know, man. Like the Proud Boys and the One Percenters would probably show up in QAnon fucks and be like, "Oh, this is our favorite band." Like it'd probably
they think it's like real.
Yeah. When Trump gets reelected, like they'll do the inauguration. The Razzer.
Yeah, for sure. Like "Ain't Too Choosy" will be like his like walk-on
campaign slogan.
Yes, when truck stop fuck shop will drop.
Yeah, that'll definitely be the new national anthem.
We got to premiere that.
Yeah.
Well, nowadays technology, like it'd be so easy to even do everything remotely, at least to start. Everybody could pass files back and forth and get something popping.
In the digital age, for sure, it'd be easy to do.
That's why I give all credit to Rusty, because I am so bad with like anything computer related, and so Rusty, like I said, when I even discovered of Razzer, like Rusty had already set it all up, and I'm like, what the fuck, this shit's hilarious, and I'm like, at first, like I said, I thought I was being trolled or something. Yeah, and maybe I am. Maybe Rusty's still trolling me, and he's just in on it.
That's what this has been the whole time. He's just been trolling you,
right?
Yeah, for sure.
Surprise, motherfucker! We were never friends.
Yeah, that would be hilarious. Yeah, he's a good dude, and he came out to see me when I still lived on the coast, and then I've maybe seen him a handful of times since then.
I was gonna say, I felt like I saw some pictures a few years ago of you guys reconnecting out there.
Yeah, I think we just basically played football on the beach like every day, like just played catch.
That's dope.
Awesome. We just go on the beach.
He's in Florida, right?
Yes, he's in Florida.
So you guys are literally on the extreme opposite ends.
Yeah, we're on the opposite
continent.
I don't know when we'll touch base again. I usually try to see Calvin every time I'm in town.
Yeah, Calvin's the man.
I was fortunate enough to see Marcus by accident at the last Cardinals game I went to.
Yeah.
A lot of good people that I don't get to see anymore. That's one thing that sucks about living out here is I miss like my friends and the music scene.
Yeah.
Cardinals baseball for sure.
Yeah.
I mean, obviously you ended up out there because in part your wife found work out there, but like why there specifically? How did you end up there? How'd you end up in California?
Yeah, that's a good question. So when I was a youngster, my dad would take me to Colorado every summer. Like we'd go hiking, whitewater rafting, and we would always climb like a 14,000-foot mountain right around the outskirts of Colorado Springs. Like we would go up Pikes Peak, and then we would like climb Mount Elbert, which is the tallest mountain in Colorado.
Yeah.
And I think that was my first taste of like, wow, when I grow up, I want to live in the mountains. And so when my wife graduated from pharmacy school in St. Louis, they needed pharmacists in rural California, and we're like, let's do it. So here we are.
Right.
Awesome.
Pulled the trigger and just did it. That's awesome, man.
But when I first moved out here, I was pretty overweight and drinking very heavily. And then, like I said, I quit drinking cold turkey like 2014. Yeah. And dropped about 50 pounds really quick. And I started hiking.
Wow.
A lot. I didn't know the Sierras had mountains that were bigger than the Rockies. I just thought the Rockies had the biggest mountain in the lower 48. But the biggest mountain lower 48 is Mount Whitney. And so I'm like, I'm going to do this, So I got the lottery permit, did Mount Whitney one day. It was like a 22-mile day.
Wow.
I think about 4,000 feet of elevation gain. I did it fairly easy, but I was exercising every day anyway and already climbing mountains and whatnot.
Yeah.
But I wasn't camping. I was just like bagging peaks coming down. And when I did Mount Whitney, 2017, you're on the John Muir Trail for a little while. And I was like, what's the John Muir Trail? So when I got down off the mountain, I did some research and I was like, oh, you start in the Yosemite Valley, which is beautiful. And then you end at Mount Whitney. And my wife, being awesome like she is, she's like, how about my mom comes to California, watches the kids, and you get in on the lottery and do it. So I did. And it was probably one of the most amazing experiences I've ever had.
That's incredible. That's cool.
Yeah, it's up, down, up, down. I mean, you start in the Yosemite Valley, which is 4,000 feet. And by the end of day one, you're on top of Half Dome, which is just shy of 10,000 feet. So day one, you gain like 6,000 feet.
That's crazy.
I didn't know. I'm kind of oblivious to like the new trends of like hiking gear. So all these people have this like lightweight shit, and their bags are literally like 20 to 15 pounds. And I have this bag that's like 40 pounds.
40-pound
like
rucksack.
Old school shit my dad gave me. Like an old school backpack my dad gave me, like pots and pans, look like a fucking hobbit. I kept having people being like, no, you ain't gonna make it, blah blah blah. But I did fairly well. I did it in about 14 days, 233 miles.
Wow.
Eventually, I think I would like to do the Colorado Trail, which I think's just over 500.
Wow.
But childcare is hard. I'm sure as you guys know, to do things that.
Absolutely.
But at 37, or am I 36? 37, 36. I think I'm 36. I feel like I'm in the best shape of my life, honestly. But I make it a priority to work out every day, exercise every day. Yeah, it's hard, but I get up at like 4 every morning, make coffee, make the kids breakfast, and do my fucking workout. It's like, I got to do it, or my day's not right.
Absolutely.
Right? So yeah, you know what I'd eventually like to do is the Ozark Trail.
Yeah, that'd be cool.
Yeah, there's a lot of folks that do that. You know, that the trail that there's also just a specific path that goes from Johnson Shut-ins up to the Tom Sauk Mountain that a lot of folks do. Just that run in and of itself. Have you ever done that down here?
Yeah, me and my dad did that run in high school. We started at Tom Sauk Mountain, which you know where the parking lot is.
Right.
And then we just hiked down to the Devil's Toll Gate, and then we just keep going. And we got to Johnson Shut-ins, which was nice because it was super hot, fucking covered in ticks, and hopped in the water.
Yeah.
Right.
And that was before the dam broke.
Right. Yeah, the reservoir broke down here, and it just totally changed the complexion of all that.
That's crazy. What's crazy about that dam breaking is my dad called me the morning it happened. He was like, turn on KFES 12. The fucking dam broke. I'm like, what are you talking about, Dad? So I turn on the TV, and sure enough, that dam broke. And he's like, let's go sneak in there and check it out. I'm like, Dad, we're going to get caught. Like, I'm sure it's swarming with like park rangers and whatnot. He's like, no, we'll just like come in the back way on the Ozark Trail, not like the main parking lot. And we did that, and we walked in and seen all the destruction.
Yeah.
And he's like, let's just take the river back to the road because it'll be faster. And as soon as where the river meets the road, there was like a park ranger waiting.
Oh shit.
Oh wow.
We both got trespassing tickets. I had to take a day off work and go to Centralia and meet their prosecuting attorney and pay him like $600, and it just got like littering or some shit.
Yeah.
Damn, man.
Wow, dude.
That's ridiculous, but yeah.
That's wild, man. I tell you what, though, California is beautiful. Like, the Rockies are beautiful. But as far as, like, floating rivers go, I still think Missouri has some of the best rivers in the country.
Yeah, you hear that from tons of people. Like, you know, the Jack's Fork, you know, expedition folks come down just for that specifically.
Right. I mean, you got Current River down here. You got Hoozall. You know what I mean?
Right.
You got, you know.
And it's all relatively in the same area.
Right.
Too.
Yeah, it's gorgeous. Like, I want to go on a float trip so bad in Missouri. It's like, our rivers out here are beautiful, but they're so fucking cold. Like, it's just so cold, all that snow melt.
Yeah.
Right? And you just don't have that constant flow of water like you do in Missouri.
Right. In Missouri, too, like, I've never done a fall float. I want to. But, you know, there's even an attraction for folks to travel intercontinentally just to do fall floats down in this area.
It's beautiful down here in the fall, so I could see that being an attraction.
Yeah, seeing the seasons change, the trees brown and so on and so forth.
Especially in Missouri, like, that's one thing I don't miss, though, is the summertime is, like, all the fucking ticks and the poison ivy.
Ticks and shit.
Humidity. You just, as soon as I step off the airplane, it's just like the red ass kicks in.
Right.
Yeah, I got the constant swamp ass. That's what I've been.
It's like, where did this mud butt come from?
Absolutely. Yeah, dude, it's not good
The
shit.
allergies here
for
too.
sure.
It's just
Yeah,
horrendous.
that's one thing that you'll notice whenever you go into those high altitude climates like that. Like when the first time I went out to Colorado, in 2011, I was like, I gotta live here. Yeah, we still fantasize about it, but like I could just feel all like my sinus drainages like emptying out, and it was like 97 there, but 97 there versus here, it was like almost a 10-degree difference because there was
Right.
zero humidity.
Relative humidity and
Really,
stuff.
the only thing that you have to worry about up there is because of the elevation, you're closer to the sun. Air's a little thinner, those two things. But with the exception of that, even like we were there in October one year and it snowed, it was manageable because they have the faculties and the facilities to handle those situations. It's not like here
Right.
when it snows and everybody's, SOL 2 inches on the ground.
Right.
Yeah, I've noticed with climate change, just in the 5 years I've lived here in the Sierras, like they had never had a fire bigger than like 2,000 acres. And the year I moved here, there was like an arsonist set a fire. It was like 4,000 acres. That seems pretty fucking big. And
Absolutely.
then like the next year, like a lightning strike caused like 100,000 acre fire. And then the next year we had like a 250,000 acre fire. And then this past year we had like the biggest fire in recorded history, which was just under 1 million acres. And it was like right out my window. We had to evacuate for a month.
Wasn't it bigger
That's
than Rhode
crazy.
Island or something crazy like that? Like the destruction
Geographically?
area?
It was huge. Like
Yeah.
every day, that's when I had my relapse too, because every day you would look out your back window and it looked like a nuclear bomb had been dropped.
Jesus.
And you could just see it moving, and then the smoke would roll in and you could literally smell like houses and stuff, and it was so fucking depressing. And I can only blame myself for my relapse, but that sure as fuck didn't help.
Right.
No, yeah, like if any situation's understandable, that one certainly is. Being cooped up and then fear of perhaps losing your home. I mean, my God.
Right, yeah.
We just got the fuck out of town, and my wife last year around this time was like, we should get a camper for fun and in case we got to evacuate.
Yeah.
And we had the camper no less than like 2 months, and we took it up to Oregon to a friend named Paul Gwynn. Paul Gwynn's a Fredericktown boy.
Okay.
His sister's Nikki. I don't know if you know Nikki Lindberry.
Yep,
Oh, yeah.
sure do.
Yeah,
Okay.
that's his. So yeah, Paul was kind enough to let me put my camper like Uncle Eddie style in his yard.
That's awesome. I didn't realize that's where you
cool.
went.
Yeah, it worked out. Looking back on it, it was like there was a lot of fear for your house and your friends.
Right.
But
yeah.
our family was like all close together in that little camper, and we had a lot of
Sure.
good laughs and good memories.
Right.
And we were able to unhook my camper and just go explore that part of the country. Like
Yeah.
the Cascades of Oregon there is gorgeous.
Hell
and the
yeah.
coast of Oregon is gorgeous.
Right.
Yeah, some of the most beautiful escapes I've ever seen are out of the Oregon area specifically.
Southern Washington State, up into
Yeah,
northern
yeah.
Oregon, in coastal Oregon. Yeah. it's
Old
all beautiful.
Riley, he's a Fredericktown boy. I think he's friends with Rusty's
Riley's
younger
cool,
brother.
dude.
Yeah.
Yeah.
He's up in that area and he's always going to awesome places and hanging lakes and stuff like that. And he's been putting up a lot of fascinating pictures lately too, because I think he's dating a gal from Poland. And so he's been going over there too.
That's awesome.
Yeah, Raleigh's a cool dude. I think he's in was a Mighty Missoula.
Yes, that's correct.
Yeah, I love that band. Yeah, there's a lot of cool post-rock bands from the Pacific Northwest.
Yeah, he's a fantastic musician too. He's multi-talented, and he was always a good singer, but he didn't actually start doing singing until I say more recently. But he's actually a really good singer as well. It's just funny because when I saw him around here back in the day, he was just like strictly playing keyboards. He got pigeonholed into doing that.
Yeah.
And I think he was always friends with Rusty's little brother. So when I would
Right.
hang out with Rusty, I would always see Riley and then Rusty's brother.
Right.
And yeah, he's a really cool dude. I need to hook up. We always talk about like meeting up and doing a hike or something, but it never happens.
Yeah, he's got a few Rhodes pianos, and that's like one of my favorite instruments. And like he totally rehabbed one from essentially scratch. And I think it was a Mark II like briefcase set.
Oh, that's
But he like totally redid everything. The strikes, put a lot of money into it, and it's beautiful. Like always, like restoration type stuff with instruments.
He's a super talented guy, and I like everything he's doing with the Mighty Missoula. And then doesn't he have some ambient stuff that he's put out too? I don't know for certain.
I believe so.
Yeah, he's a good dude.
I'm like really bad at like whenever people put stuff out, like I'm like, oh, I gotta check it out, and I check it out immediately, and then I go on to the next thing. It's like I guess my ADD.
Yeah, it's kind of overwhelming though, because back in the day,
yeah.
you had to be like, if you wanted to be in a scene, you kind of had to insert yourself into that scene, and now it's just like you can get on Spotify and be like, oh, I'm gonna listen to this album.
Right.
Back in the day, you had to make the effort to be like, I want to be into this specific genre.
Right.
Yeah, absolutely. Like
especially
it's just
in our location.
And like, now the access and oversaturation of everything, everything's on Spotify or has to be if you want any sort of attention.
Hell, we're on Spotify.
Yeah, we're on Spotify.
Yeah. I mean,
sponsored by Anchor, who's owned by Spotify. So
I mean, that's why it's kind of cool, like you were saying, like Cave In and Converge are like still your go-to bands, because like you discovered them before you had to like when you had to go find music,
Yeah, had to dig for albums.
Yeah,
we've talked about this on 2 or 3 episodes too, but just kind of the trajectory of how we found music back in the day, file sharing sites, things like that. Yeah. And advance of the internet and speeds coming on board, but then between that, the local music scene and some of the friends that we procure, how it kind of formed and shaped a lot of our musical interests. I basically found out who Cave In was from, we all cloned Marcus's iPod. One time we ripped it and everybody got it. And then I found out who Converge was from Ridge, my bandmate at the time. I started playing hardcore music with Garrett and those guys back in the day. That was the first band we all had together. And he was like, hey, check out this band. And I was like, oh yeah.
That's how I know about Converge, is through you boys.
Yeah. Matter of fact, these little prints behind me are things that he did screen printing class back when we were in high school, and he gave me those. So they're like that.
I like the Planes Mistaken for Guitars one.
Yeah, Plane Mistaken for Stars. That came with, randomly it came with, I think it might have been a Converge album. Like I was like, where did this come from? I wish I'd gotten one of their records, but no, it just came free in the midst of other stuff I got.
See a Mock Orange one back there. I got this really cool back in the day from Hydra Head. Like this just came like with
I saw that
with one of like, my records.
That's dope.
And it was basically a tour poster.
That's fucking
Cave In
sick.
Converge. And yeah, it's a really cool one. I miss Hydra Head. That was a cool record label.
Yeah, I like that Death Wish actually sells tour post. I mean, it's a lot of the same people, guys, bands, all crossbreeding, if you will. But the Death Wish, they do a lot of the tour posters. I got my wife a really cool Chelsea Wolf one for Christmas one year. And
that's sweet.
We still got to put it up in a frame, but we're big fans of her as well.
Yeah, she's pretty good. I like pretty much anything she puts out.
But whenever you're hiking up in the mountains and stuff, what's I mean, I would assume there's a lot of destitute, so no cell phone service in some capacities, varieties, those sorts of things. It's got to be a little scary out there. And I know you've had some encounters with, nature and wildlife out there too.
Yeah. One of my scariest moments was when my son Miles was at potty train age, like 2.5, 3. And we climbed one of the local mountains that I knew pretty well. But when you have like snowpack, everything just looks way different. So anyway, we were climbing, they call it Spanish Peak, which is right outside of Quincy where I live. And we had a pretty good snowpack that year. It was July, but at the summit, you still had like 6 to 5 feet of snow. And I started late that day, which is kind of a no-no anyway, for reasons of getting lost or whatever.
Sure.
Right.
Yeah.
And thunderstorms roll in sometimes late in the day. So anyway, we get to the top, great views, everything is going good. I'm heading back down the mountain, about 6 miles back to my car. It's about a 12-mile day round trip, 6 up, 6 down. So heading back down to the car. This is July, about 7 o'clock. So it's starting to kind of get dark. Miles said he had to pee, so I was going to get him out of the backpack. And I look over my shoulder, and there's this 300 to 400 pound bear.
Oh shit!
Which I had seen bears before, like out in the wilderness, far from a car or any structure to hide in. So I did what I normally do, just kind of stand there, stand big, whoa bear, like don't run.
Yeah,
that has always worked for me. But this particular day, I stood there for 10 minutes, just like, hey bear, and it just kind of kept coming closer. And I don't think the bear wanted to eat me. I just think it was a big male curious bear, and it just kind of kept coming at me, and it kind of started like bluff charging me, sort of like kind of snarling.
Yeah, That's wild.
So I'm starting to like tremble, you know, like I'm getting really fucking scared. Like I'm doing everything not to run, even though like that's not what you're supposed to do. So I finally did what you're not supposed to do. I turned around and started like walking really fast. And next thing I know, I'm like really fucking lost. Like I didn't have any cell phone service.
God.
Everything was foreign to me. Like I didn't know where the fuck I was.
Jesus.
And I was really thirsty too, because I had just been running circles. Like I had realized I had been just doing circles, like in this huge fucking meadow. And I started crying. Like I was seriously crying because I didn't really care so much if it was just me, but I had my son on my back.
Right.
Yeah.
And I remember at one point he's like, "Dad, I gotta pee," and I'm like, "Just go in your pants, son." So finally, I found like this big outcropping of rocks, and I'm like, I'm gonna go to this outcropping of rocks and try to get a feel of where I'm at. And I climb up this like outcropping of rocks, and I see a lake that I know I'm not supposed to be seeing. And I had realized that I'm like really far from my car, and it's like 8 o'clock. So I'm like, what the fuck do I do? I knew the Pacific Crest Trail was behind me, but that's what the fucking bear was too.
Yeah.
So I'm like, do I go to this lake, which I knew this lake has like lodging and stuff, but this lake that I was seeing is like 5-6 miles away, no trail. So I was bound to get lost, and I was going to get lost if I went towards that lake.
Yeah.
So I'm like, I got to turn around and go in the direction of this bear. I have to, or I'm going to fucking die out here. Maybe, I don't know. So I finally just start trudging up like this really steep mountain to get back up to the Pacific Crest Trail. And I finally see like a Pacific Crest Trail sign. And then there was that fucking bear.
Jesus.
And at that point, I was like, it was dark, and I was so tired that I was like, fuck you, bear. I just walked past the bear. I'm just like, I'm going to my car. And it just kind of like slowly just like walked along me for a while, and then just drifted off its own way.
Jesus Christ.
Oh my God.
I thought I was going to die for sure.
Oh.
And then I had a fear of like doing my favorite thing for a while. Like there was a good 2 months where I didn't want to hike.
Oh, rightfully so, dude.
I would imagine.
Yeah, I thought I was going to get stalked by a bear. But I know that bears by nature don't want to really fuck with humans unless the bear's been fed.
Right.
So I finally got the courage up to do that same exact hike again, and then the fear went away.
That's good, yeah.
That shit still scares the fuck out of me.
I can imagine.
Sometimes they're like, "Oh, I love seeing bears." I'm like, from my car, I do.
Yeah.
If I'm like not near a structure to like hide in, or my car, and I still see a bear, it still scares the shit out of me.
Right.
I still, I seen a bear about 3 weeks ago, probably. It was just a little cub, did the whoa bear thing.
Yeah.
And I think I was between that bear and its mom, because that little cub bear started kind of coming at me and bluff charging. So I was trying to be like, where's your mom? Like, I don't want to be between you guys. And I finally kind of just backed away with my hands up, and the bear went down kind of around me. But that was not near as spooky because I was with a couple of other dudes. So it wasn't near as bad.
You could just toss them to the bear if you needed to, and you could run.
One of my friends was like, dude, give me a stick. And I couldn't find like an appropriate size stick. And I threw him like this huge log. He's like, what the fuck am I going to do with this?
Just spear him with it.
Yeah.
That's incredible.
One animal I've never seen and I don't want to is a mountain lion, which they're out here all the time.
I was going to say.
Right, yeah, you don't want to fuck with that.
I guarantee you, of all the hiking I've done, I'm sure that there's been lots of mountain lions that have seen me and probably even like sort of like stalked me to check me out.
Sure.
Because if you see a mountain lion, you didn't see it first. You know what I mean?
Absolutely.
Right.
Yeah.
Yeah.
They cannot be seen if they don't want to be, for sure.
And they're more likely to probably attack a human than a bear, for sure.
Definitely.
Oh, yeah.
They're more scavengers.
Yeah.
They talk about that here. There's, they say that they're randomly in and out of the state of Missouri, which with the frequency that they've been sighted and caught on camera, they're here.
Yeah, the last time I went out to Pickle Springs with the entire family, we swore we were being stalked because we kept hearing stuff. And like whenever you get up against some of them gulches and stuff, and you can things just echo even more so. It was not like, I mean, you know what squirrel play is. You hear like lurching and cracking of branches, like pressure is putting it down.
Slow pressure and stuff.
Right. Like I was like really starting to freak out.
Oh, I would not be surprised at all. Out here for sure, they always say if you got like a little, like a yappy dog, like a chihuahua or something.
Yeah.
Like they get attacked all the time if people are hiking and they're trailing behind.
Yeah.
Because the mountain lion will kind of size you up. So if I'm hiking with my kids, I make sure that they're like in front of me or between me and my wife.
Right.
Because they would definitely go to take your kid down before they would take, you down because you're bigger.
Right.
But yeah, that's one animal I don't want to see.
I mean, I know it's even common in like LA of all places, like well-populated areas down there. Like I think Joe Rogan got attacked by like a mountain lion or somebody, or he had mentioned that he had an encounter with a mountain lion on his podcast a few years ago.
That's pretty wild.
Like you don't think of that being a possibility.
Like a
but
metropolitan area.
Yeah, it is.
Yeah.
Because of the fires that were going on too, was driving a lot of the wildlife into the more populated areas.
Yeah, they don't really have nowhere to go when you have these big mega fires, so they kind of just come to town. And we have one in town right now that people have been talking about, and it's been being spotted in people's yards and shit.
Wow.
I'm always afraid I'll go out at night to throw some trash out and it'll be like sitting there or something, but
Dude, I'm a big pussy whenever I go out at night and I got to throw away the trash. Like there was a cat in my trash one time and just scared the absolute shit out of me. I was just like, ah!
Yeah, I've had similar situations with raccoons too.
Like just didn't expect that. Or yeah, raccoons, possums. I've seen possums out here too.
Yeah.
Raccoons are ornery, man.
Yeah.
I do miss seeing there's a lot more raccoons I feel like in Missouri than I see out here.
Which is funny because like I feel like any media that you watched back in the day of like, TV shows or whatever the case was, like Northern Exposure was big back in the day whenever I was a kid, but you always saw like raccoons and stuff in those shows, but it's not necessarily always the case. And
yeah, I remember like every time I go to Yosemite, they're fucking everywhere. But other than that, I hardly ever see them.
Yeah,
I never see possums either. I miss seeing a fucking possum.
Yeah, I'll tell you where raccoons are bad at. As actually we were talking about earlier, is down in Black River.
Oh yeah,
we went camping down there last year in the summer. And it was like the first 100-degree weekend. It was fucking brutal. It was on Father's Day weekend. We went camping.
We had a good time though.
I like woke up in the morning because I thought his kids were getting out of the tent, and there was like a raccoon staring at me, like trying to get in our coolers, like big fat bastard.
They like that trash.
Yeah, we tie our trash up, but they were still. We had coolers, even though I knew like we needed to weight them down. So I would put like heavy stuff on them at night. Like I think I even brought a weight down, like a dumbbell. And I guess they just kind of like hang out in some of that roughage, like where it transitions from the river up to the campground areas, and they just come out at night and scavenge. You can hear them scratching around on people's tents.
You're way more responsible than I was, like when I was like younger and would camp along the Black and Current. I just remember we just have like bush beer cans and fucking food everywhere.
We've had those occasions. We went to Wapapello one year. It was my wife and I, and then a couple other couples, Josh, Alyssa, his wife, and Ridge went with us, and that was a pretty good time. I don't know if you've ever been down to Wapapello before.
Yeah, it's been a bit, but I like it. It's pretty down there.
It's changed quite a bit too because of all the flooding that they've had too, and the Army Corps of Engineers manages that. Even Black River is a little bit different now. It's changed over the last few years. The way the river bends back in there and how you can access and drive up into and park. It's just all the crazy, back to the climate change thing too. It's just affected the geography down here pretty drastically in the last, I think that first big reservoir break was like 2008 or 9.
Yeah, something like
that.
I can't remember
that they first had to break like a levee on the river with regards to, and then they even had one here again in the last few years.
Yeah.
Damn, that sucks. I feel like you all are probably maybe safer than I am for sure. Like I tell my wife all the time, like our house is going to burn down in the next 5 years probably. But
yeah,
it's fucking scary, especially if you have kids. You know what I mean? It's like, what future do they have?
Right. It changes. It definitely adds a different element to the whole, situation when you're worried about your children. You know what I mean?
I saw also a strange thing that because like the CO2 in the climate was impacted, obviously, whenever everybody was staying at home during the pandemic and the shutdowns were going on. So like at first we saw immediate like positives with, radiation that was being emitted and the holes in the ozone and so on and so forth. But now we're supposedly getting more violent weather on account of it, for oxygen being restored back into the atmosphere. It's like damned if you do, damned if you don't.
Yeah. The hurricane specifically, I think, right? Isn't that the biggest risk to mankind right now?
Yep.
That's crazy.
Yeah, more violent hurricanes in particular have been trending.
I remember right before I left Missouri for California, there was like that big inland windstorm.
Yep.
Mm-hmm.
And those are becoming more and more common. It's like, what the fuck?
Straight line winds and stuff. It's scary stuff.
In fact, back to your camper talk, my wife and I, when we first started dating, we had that inland hurricane type event here in 2009 in the early spring. and they lost their home, and so they actually bought a camper to live in for a little while, and until they could get a new double wide brought down on their property. But that's like our early relationship was down there, and then they kept the double wide. And so she and I actually moved into that briefly, and we're living out of a double wide. But yeah, we kind of know the constraints of the, pull behind living.
Yeah, you see a lot of people out here now when you drive through these areas that are burnt, and you see where a home once was, and now it's just like a camper.
Yeah.
Or a double wide if they're lucky, and you feel really, really bad for those folks.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
I think really the more fires around here are event caused, unfortunately, usually ties back to drugs and that sort of stuff. But
yeah.
But Fredericktown, even over the winter, I don't know if you know this, they had a bad tornado come through there, and a lot of people lost their homes.
Yeah, I had some friends that had lost a home, and it was a pretty big one from what I understand. I think
it took out Black River.
Yeah, that whole area over there where Black River Electric is, right by the highway.
Yeah. St. Mary's.
St. Mary's, yeah, that's where a lot of my family's from, St. Mary's area. And fucking crazy, man. People that don't believe it are nuts.
Oh, yeah, absolutely.
Yeah, it took out Crown Valley Brewery. It took the roof off the brewery, the distillery there. The only thing that kept it was the distiller, the flue stack that came up through it. Like the roof got hung up on it. It peeled it back like a tuna can. Took out St. Mary's Antique Mall down there. Took out an auction barn on Crown property. Yeah, St. Mary's Antique Mall was totally flattened.
Damn, I didn't know that.
Yeah,
that place is really cool. There were some gyms in there.
Yeah, Antique Treasures is also owned by those same people, the Crown people, but it's pretty cool in Farmington. You can get some good tape steels there occasionally, or vinyl. But they actually have antique pieces too, but there's a lot of booths in there.
Yeah, I used to have some like cool stag memorabilia from that antique store.
Yeah, antiquing is obviously a huge thing in the area too. And that's how actually I met a lot of people in the area that were coincidentally friends with people that I were, and we're going to shows like the McDowells and those people. They do a lot of antiquing in the area, which is kind of wild how those things have kind of intertwined in the community down here.
You got Silver Mine Antiques. That place was cool.
Yeah, for sure.
Yeah, last time I was in Missouri, I made a point to go to Arcadia Valley. It's really fucking pretty there, and we stayed at the old, is that like an old church they had there?
Yep, the Academy.
The Academy. We stayed at the Academy. Went to Johnson Shut-ins for the first time in a long time. So, yeah, good memories there.
Johnson Shut-in's a cool place, but I feel like since the reservoir, it feels like the water gets more stagnant there, and it gets kind of nasty. Like they get some E. coli issues. Like we went out there one year, and it was horrific.
It seemed a lot different than what I remembered, but it had been 15, 16 years since I had been there.
Yeah. Well, I know that has improved, and I haven't actually done a lot of it, is some of the walking trails and things. Like they've actually, did that plank boarding in some of the areas, especially down, shut-in side. But I haven't actually done any extensive hiking since they've redone all that down on that side of things. Anyways, I've been up to Tom Sock. Tom Sock's always a great hike.
Right. Yeah.
Yeah, I love going down to the Devil's Toll Gate and then beyond if I have the time.
Boy, there were so many legends in Ironton around that back in the day. My mom, she grew up in Ironton. That's how her family's from that area. So that's what brought us back down here after the flood of 93, because we were up in, essentially East St. Louis, but West Alton is the town that we lived in, and it just got totally devastated in the flood of 93. So we moved down here with her family and stuff. And it's crazy even how things have changed down here, as far as development wise, but literally all of this area, these natural areas, is just in my family's DNA.
Yeah, that's cool, man.
Ironton, born and bred, generations.
Yeah, there's good people from Ironton area. I don't know if the Ironton kids were like the Fredericktown kids, but I don't know what it was with Potosi, but it was always kind of a joke to laugh about Potosi.
Oh, yeah.
We did it too at Farmington, yeah.
Yeah, definitely. There was Trojans. Always everybody else was highbrow,
Yeah.
Yeah, they were all inbred,
Oh yeah, Monkey Mountain.
Monkey Mountain,
yeah. Yeah, that would be another song that needs to happen on the next Razzer.
Sure.
Monkey Mountain.
That would be sweet.
Met my lover on Monkey Mountain.
That would be a good one for sure. Man, those kids did look kind of weird, though, I feel like.
A lot of them did, yeah.
Yeah, I remember
We played a
playing
few
football
shows in
against them.
Potosi that were
Yeah.
pretty wild.
Is that where you met Pam? Was in Arcadia Valley?
Yeah, she was a grade ahead of me in AV, and she was a shy girl and I was a shy boy in school. We actually never dated or anything or anywhere close to it while we were in high school and after like we were in college and stuff, and we just kind of randomly reconnected. We had stayed like I was in cross country with some of her old boyfriends and stuff like that, so like we was just like kind of knew each other. But she was in college back home for the summer, coincidentally also working at a hotel, and I was working at a hotel, so we'd share hotel horror stories and stuff like that. So that kind of initiated conversation with us again, and we just started dating, been together ever since. So like 2009.
She seems like a really cool gal just from seeing your family on Instagram and whatnot. But
she's the best. She's the rudder in the water. We all need those strong women.
Oh yeah, man. Women definitely don't get enough credit. Like for sure, my wife definitely holds our family together.
But hey, man, I appreciate you giving us your time
Absolutely,
today.
Man.
And
yeah.
I really like catching up. I'd like to have you back on the show at some point.
Yeah,
and
sure.
Yeah, I just at least wanted our first conversation to be kind of about who you are, what you're about, what you're up to, your interests and that sort of stuff. Kind of get a character profile going for you, and maybe we can bring you back on, maybe do some old school show flyers and talk about memories, or even talk about current bands and stuff. Like I know you're a Cave-In fan, like I am. Always down to talk about Cave-In and anything close to it.
Yeah, sounds good, man. I appreciate you having me on, and sorry about the difficulties with the with my phone and whatnot. But
it's all good, dude.
Yeah,
we've dealt with way worse.
Sure, and got to bring up some good memories tonight, most definitely. So thanks, guys, and enjoy the rest of your evening.
Yeah, you too, bro. Man. Appreciate you. Thank you.
Talk to you later.
We'll see you.
You think you're tough. I'll smash it and crash it, and then I'll bash you with my rig while smoking a cig. My rig while smoking a cig. You ain't tough, just a smelly muff. You bring your boys. You bring your boys. I'll get cousin. Gonna get cousin. Gonna get cousin. Now cousin is tall and your boys are small. Now cousin is tall and your boys are small. Gonna get cousin. Now when cousin smoke meth, you equal death. You die. Cousin make you die when he on the meth. Flip it a bop bash, make a rig crash. Got me a mustache. Gonna get cousin. Cousin, he tough. My cousin, he tough. It's a rattlesnake. It's a rattlesnake. It's a rattlesnake.
Welcome back after the break, guys. Thanks for sticking with us and sticking tuned to what we got dialed in here today. We want to thank Picou for being on the show.
Absolutely. That was awesome, dude. It
was a great conversation, great stories about his travels there out on the West Coast.
Yeah, and it just
throughout the trails.
The good old feels again, which, like we've always said, we've been trying to capture anyway. But yeah, it
little nostalgia lane for sure.
Yeah, for sure.
We want to talk about what we have going on next week again. So just briefly, we're going to be doing a classic segment drop. And so stay tuned for that. It'll be a nice, short, quick, fun listen. And you're going to hear, 20, 21-year-olds thereabout versions of us on there.
Yeah.
Ranting and raving as if we knew what complicated life was like at that age.
Yeah, right. Like we had real problems then.
Right, no doubt. And of course, as a part of every week, we have to thank Mr. Ben Sharp of Cloud Kicker for allowing us to use his song, You and Yours, for the ATI podcast Open. It is off the album Let Yourself Be Huge. We really appreciate it.
Yeah, absolutely. Thank you so much, man. Great stuff. Keep it coming.
And for this week, I am Barry Insane, and that's a train.
And that is a train. We're about to catch this train and get up on out of here.
About to get this motherfucking train hopped on, and we're getting the fuck out of here. I'm Barry Insane on Instagram and Twitter.
Yeah, and you can check me out on Instagram at _Joshua Welch or on Twitter at the OG Josh W. Until next time.
You all be safe out there.
Yeah. Wear your rubbers.
And good night and good luck.
Go Blues.
help's not coming, so you better start running. But help's not coming, so you better start running. But help's not coming, so you better start, so you better start, so you better start running. I know the devil when I see him. I'm looking right into his eyes. Under the long arm of the man of the Holy Ghost, I am under the sky.
Hey, this is Josh from ATI Podcast. For show updates and news about the podcast, follow us on social media. You can follow us on Facebook at facebook.com/ATI Podcast22, on Twitter at podcast_ATI, on Instagram at the ATI Podcast, on TikTok at ATI Podcast. DMs are always welcome. Have a question for the show? You can always email us at atipodcastquestions@gmail.com. Stay safe out there.
You guys do breakfast and just like a regular... You guys got a buffet set up?
A buffet?
Yeah.
No.
No buffet, huh?
No.
Do you guys do like hamburgers and all that?
Yes, we do.
Make my panties wet, them damn hamburgers do. I think me and my buddies will come in and have me some hamburgers with cheese flopped all over them, and after that we'll toss your salad, big boy. Can I put some ranch dressing on my crotch?
Absolutely not. This is Trish. Can I help you?
Yeah, what time you all close, baby?
We're open 24 hours a day.
Well, a bunch of me and my buddies have tied on a big old buzz from the local tavern, and we're gonna come in and eat some burgers and
All right.
get some sloppy tits,
Get some what?
some sloppy boobies. We got some sloppy boobies with us.
Oh, you got some floppy boobs with you?
Yeah.
Okay.
Can we bring them in?
Well, I assume you probably can.
If they keep their shirts on, can we put some ranch dressing down their breast?
Oh, no, I don't know about all that.
Come on.
No, I don't think so. I don't think we can handle that tonight, okay?
What if I put some ranch dressing on my crotch in the bathroom?
You know what? If you do it in the bathroom and don't get all over the floor, I don't really care what you put on your crotch in the bathroom.
Does it make your nipples hard?
No, it doesn't. And I have customers. I have to go.
Okay.
Okay.
Bye. I heard you've been fucking around on my girlfriend.
What?
I heard you've been eating them up when I ain't around.
Yeah,
It's just Darnell.